A pleasant good afternoon, good evening um, from Temple in Pennsylvania, Lancaster to be exact today. Good to be on a closing argument. Welcome to our viewers and from Facebook, on YouTube, on our page, and across the globe. Good to be back on a closing argument. Today is December 10th, 2024. Exactly 15 more days to Christmas. Almost 2 weeks to Christmas. Hope everybody's preparing for the holiday and getting ready to celebrate the season of giving. The time where we exchange gifts with friends, loved ones, and your family members. This is Christ is the reason for the season. Peace on earth and goodwill towards all mankind. I see James A. Koyate Jr. from Duporo Hamafi. I see the Queen herself, the national president of the Cathedral Alumni Association in the Americas, all the way in Raleigh, North Carolina, Madam Hawanatu Mansare. She said, we are prepared for the holidays. I also see George Watkins Jr. from District 13, Montserrado County, Liberia. I see Usman Ansu. Pleasant holidays, greetings to James Kuyate, to George Watkins, to Usman Ansu, to Matthew Ndole. Wow, watching from Bapolu County. Matthew, if you get a chance, man, I would love for you to give me or give us a call and tell us how's life in Bapolu County. Matthew Ndole, if you get this message, come in my inbox and give me your number so we can call you to find out how's life in Bapolu County, in Liberia. Hawanatu Masare, all the way in Raleigh, North Carolina. Good to see you, Hawa. Hope you are doing well. Hope you are recovering well. I wish you the best. Solomon Howard, watching from Bernard Farm. Robert Swan. What's up, Robert? Watching from you in Delaware. Wow. Yeah, the great state of Delaware, the first state. The state where the president of America lives, Joe Biden, the outgoing president. Melvin Destiny Harvard, Pawan, watching from Minnesota. Lucine Dole from Kakata. That's my county though, my area there. I wasn't born in Kakata, I was born in Habel. But that's from my Gibi. Yeah, so I want to say welcome to everyone. Good to see you guys, and a lot to talk about. Aaron Zane, watching from Rehab Elwa community. Good to see you guys. Mozart Denens, watching from Minnesota. The rest of the guys will be joining us. But a lot happened today in our country. Melvin Destiny Pawan, the justice minister, you invite, he will never appear. You won't even go on the government pro spawn. You will not even go there before you come on closing argument. Only thing he'll tell you, you talk to me on telephone, he will not chat, but he will not appear. And that justice minister, I had too much high regards for him. I respected him a lot, but I don't know what his interpretation of the Supreme Court's ruling is something that everybody is still trying to ponder over. I don't know what time in our country history the Supreme Court opinion was interpreted by the Attorney General, and then it became the law of the land, because that's why the executive branch is relying on now, running with it. Even the pro tem of the Senate and her colleagues at the Senate, they surprised me. They're all running with it now, saying that the justice minister have interpreted the Supreme Court ruling, so that's why they're going by. But it's a shame on all of them. I'm surprised that the Senate especially the leadership of the Senate. I will single out Augustine Chair, Montana McGill. They are the ones who have been. I was told that 6% voted against the decision for of the Senate to recognize Richard Kuhn and the so-called majority bloc. And so it's a shame, though. But I would explain to you guys what happened overnight with the president and the Speaker Kofa and others. What happened? President Boga is no secret now. He's involved in this. I always say he was involved. He was part of this whole process to remove the speaker. Some people doubted it, but I knew he was always involved. There's no way he wasn't involved. And now it's being exposed. But Doris Cooper, you're right. Oswald Twe, his law firm is a big law firm, powerful law firm, to be Attorney General in Liberia. You know what it means. What surprised me is that he's a very good friend of Speaker Kofa. They're all from Liberty Party. Councillor Bronsky nurtured that guy. Councillor Bronsky nurtured Oswald Twe. They all were the core members of Liberty Party. And for today to see him interpreting the Supreme Court ruling in his own words, that was surprising. You have learned legal luminaries have been giving their opinions on it too. Councillor Kehleboe Gongloe. Yes, these are guys who people respect a lot. I'm trying to get a lawyer too, one young Liberian lawyer in the USA too. He practicing law here. I hope he will be able to get him on to help us to unpack it. But in the meantime, let me recognize our guests. Our viewers. We have Rense Laba, Labla, Rense Labla, yeah. Ishrak Helena Kiatape, Mohammed Yusuf, Susan Pay, as always, from Delaware. Kitere Tobagi. Kitere Tobagi. Oh, Kitere Tobagi. Yeah, maybe what the person said. She said, the Supreme Court is biased. The Justice Minister works at the will and pleasure of reckless JMB. How would those incompetent and irresponsible senators run decisions on the Justice Minister's opinion? The minister said from the way he see things, that's his opinion. Okay. I can't disagree with you. Why would they rely on the Justice Minister's opinion to form the decision about recognizing someone who was elected illegally as they're calling him speaker? I can't call him speaker. He was not illegitimately elected. Speaker Kofa is still the speaker as far as I'm concerned. But a lot of things happened today, and our closing argument guy was in town today. Samson Monserrat. Let me just bring Samson on the line to help us unpack some of the stuff that happened today. So Samson can help us. He broke the story of the fire that was on the Capitol building. So hopefully Samson can help us to unpack some stuff. Samson.
Yes, sir.
You live on the closing argument. I want you to please tell the public what happened today at the Capitol building, what the news that's floating around, how everything went on today, including the fire that you broke up. You broke the story of the fire, and everyone was following your life. That was very good of you. You're on top of your game, and we just continue to have confidence in you. But tell the Liberian people what happened today. Give us an update. What's transpired today at Capitol Hill?
All right. So this morning, now about 8 o'clock, I make my way at the Capitol building, and to observe the process that happened ongoing, the speaker removal process that has been ongoing for almost 2 months now. And it was very tense. We had a very huge security presence there, where we saw police officers. First time in the history of the Capitol building since I've been around as a journalist, to see security officers interrogating lawmakers, and especially lawmakers from the speaker's side who support the speaker, interrogating them, making a search at the entrance of the Capitol building. And Honorable Musa Bealded was one of those lawmakers who Finko was stopped for search, and I covered that story. I'll did a live coverage of him exploding and making some remarks on the security officer and expressing his own disappointment too at the security officer. This way was kind of tense, very, very tense. We also saw Honorable Yeke Koluba, as usual, is firebrand posture and trying to resist the police officers that were there, calling them partisan police and using some timid statement on the presidency. And I think I saw some comments from our followers making some remark that we were the cause of Yeke Koluba insulting the presidency, and we're just doing our job. We're not because Honorable Yeke Koluba was new maker, so we were on obligation to give his stories as it was unfolding. So today the majority block 2 hosted a session, and they were 28 in numbers. I saw few people trying to counter that report when I posted it, and one of those were Togar Bealded, trying to counter it that with the report. So they were actually 28 in numbers, and when they did a roll call, they decided to inflate the number so that they could meet quorum and whole session. But unfortunately, they did not spend less than 1 hour in session. They had to adjourn the session at 11 o'clock. They adjourned the session. And immediately after they adjourned the session, we went into the main chamber where Speaker Kofatu and his blog hosted their own session. And we had the opportunity, there's a full video that was live on the joint chamber, interviewing lawmakers, getting their own opinions on the ongoing situation, especially from the issue of the security apparatus, intimidations towards lawmakers, police brutality also towards lawmakers. And Representative Musa Hassan Bealded was also one of those people we interviewed. We represented we interviewed Representative Francis Afoko. We also interviewed Representative Eugene Collins too, and Tawon, we represented Tawon of the District 9, Nima County. So all of them expresses their frustration and disappointment in the executive, and they as well gave their assurance that the speaker won't resign, and they remain bent on it, that even if the executive want to take their security details from the speaker, he can go ahead, but the speaker will not resign. The speaker won't leave the office he's currently occupying. So 1 hour after that session, because the speaker too could not be session, they could not make quorum. They were 23 in numbers, and Honorable Luther Collins sending a communication that he was not feeling well. One of the victims who were beaten by police officers, he's from Representative Luther Collins from District 2, Peabody County. He was beaten by police yesterday. So because of that, he's currently in hospital, settling his arm. I think he has some problem with his hand. He left him, so he could not appear in session. And right after that, we also saw 1 hour later, we saw Representative Yeke Koluba session, press conference, which we cover, and he was, as usual, exploding on the presidency and expressing his frustration to the United Party-led administration. And he also gave assurance that the speaker won't resign. And he was the one, Honorable Yeke Koluba was the one who broke the news that the speaker had a meeting with the president, and the president wanted the speaker to resign, and he called Senator Tyrus Dillon Abraham and Senator Yopikaka Lawrence and Kofi, who having to be the security advisor to the president. And he said all of them were in that particular meeting where they were negotiating for the speaker to resign. But when we asked the speaker, I had the opportunity to ask the speaker off record concerning his meeting with the president. He said yes, it was true he met the president, but he did not provide details of the meeting to me. So read about that. That was how one of the Yaka Koloba broke the news about the speaker. So immediately after one of the Yaka Koloba press conference, we saw a communication from the Ministry of Justice interpreting, giving their own opinion on the Supreme Court ruling. And there was a massive celebration on the ground of the Capitol building by supporters of the majority bloc, celebrating that the executive finally endorsed their. And right after that, 10 minutes later, that communication was posted on the executive mansion website and the Facebook page, the official Facebook page belonging to the executive mansion. And that Facebook page is being controlled by the presidential press secretary, Kula Fofana. She's the one controlling that Facebook page. And so right after the executive mansion posted, they sent it to Jallah executive meeting, and they came up endorsing the Justice Ministry statement and as well, and openly declaring their support to the majority bloc. And so today was very hectic, and we had to be to more than 3 areas at the same time. So while we were on break, while the entire situation came down to this evening, trying to make my way, another breaking news happened from the second floor where Representative Speaker Thomas Fallon office is situated. And we saw a huge smoke coming in from the building itself, the old building. So immediately we put the news, and that was how it started to trend on the internet concerning the fire outbreak. So all of the panel breakers that controls all of the air conditions to the building, and all of the breakers that are connected to offices has been destroyed from fire outbreak. The cause of the fire has not been out yet, so it still remains unknown. But speculation have it that it was electrical fault, but I cannot confirm that it was electrical fault until fire service themselves come up with their report.
Wow. Thank you, Samson. But Samson, I saw a video on one of the chat rooms today where someone slapped someone. Is that a real video, or they were just something fake?
Video, so slap it. So that was yesterday, Israel, where they searching one member of the Sachi, and that was between the Sachi, one member of the Sachi and the security for Honorable Jason, what I think of the system, most of the county. Yes, the video is real.
Wow. So
and on yesterday too, we were also intimidated by members from the majority bloc, where we, if you watch the live video, you will see Honorable Colette, James Colette, issuing threatening remark on us, especially me, telling me that I've all been controversial, instructing his security personal staff to take my picture. On a live camera, making some remarks to him, asking him, so why are you taking my picture? Why are you intimidating me? And he was like, you are always controversial with your report, so I want to unmark you.
Well, but let me give this warning to James Colette. If anything should happen to this young man, you'll be held responsible, and it won't stop there. Let me give you that warning. And if you're in the business of threatening journalists or intimidating them, you should stop it. We'll not let you get away with this. We're not allowed to intimidate or threaten our journalists who's doing a job for the Liberian people. You are not above the law. You have no right to threaten any journalists or to intimidate them. And I will send you a personal message after I leave this show today. You and I have communicated before, and I will find out from you. I know you. If you tell me that what you did, you threatened him, we will respond to you accordingly. Seriously, let me let you know that. Samson, thank you so much, and continue to do your job. We appreciate you. You did a good job today. Remain fearless. As I said, you know what we're working on. We are trying our best to get you that motorbike, which we will definitely know we'll get it soon, so you can be more visible and be able to navigate your way throughout. I want to say thank you, and just continue to do your job with all fear of favor. And like I will tell you, you're a journalist. You are not for no one. You on no side. You're not for the opposition. You're not for the government. You are for the Liberian people. So just continue to do your job, and we'll take it from there. Okay. Thank you so much, Samson.
All right, Chief.
Okay. Thank you. I want to welcome the neo-progressive leader, the comrade Sylvester Pewee. This young man is, you will not understand Pewee, so you're sitting and be attacking Pewee. Pewee is a voice of reasoning, objectivity, and logic. You may not like what he's saying because you want him to say what you want to hear, and he's not the kind of person who would do that. He's not fake, and he would never say things just for you to suit you. And I will always say this platform is not an opposition platform; it's a public platform. I know if you expect you also just beat on one side, we'll just be very, very logical and rational. And so let's continue to support the platform and everything else. Pew, welcome. And also, Ansu, you're putting, we got 15 more days of Christmas, and we want to be done with you guys, to have you guys receive your Christmas blessing from the people around the U.S. and around the world by the 23rd at least, so you guys can do your shopping on the 24th and what you want to do for you and your family. So y'all keep your information up. We're gonna take a time next week to spend at least 30 minutes on fundraising just for you guys. You guys do a very good job. It's not easy. Right now it's 10 o'clock, 10:26 in Liberia. You guys are up. A good thing some of Ben Liberia, so we'll know what you guys go through. You guys live. This country is dark. To get car to go home is not easy. Especially Myean. Myean come from school. He goes there, and you guys live far places. Some of your Broadville. It's not easy, and it takes almost an hour plus to get home. You guys leave that studio so now 1 o'clock in the morning. But so now people don't know when you're rushing you guys, you got rushing up because you want to go home to get motivated to go home. It's not easy. And then certain time at night, like bro, motivated don't even plow the streets again. Everybody home, so you're looking for some keke second being added up. A taxi, looking for a taxi now, or some bus. So I know you guys go through it. It's not easy. It's a tough thing for you guys. So we appreciate you guys. So the show is live on the radio in Liberia. True FM is broadcast almost all over the country. See people in Lofa. I'll call this guy. What's his name? Matthew Indole in Bapulu. I will give you a call so we can hear from you what's happening in Bapulu. All over the country, listen to us. The people, they want to get other side of what's happening in the national debate, national discourse. Okay, so the speaker just wrote on his page. In 12 minutes, he got over 600 people commenting already. Fear nothing but to do wrong. Speaker Kofa. Fear nothing but to do wrong. His Facebook page just wrote. And I mean, the speaker is telling you that he's not going to resign. But I will tell you guys what happened last night at the president's house. But let me give people a chance to come in.
Thank you. Yeah, I think we're just going to be in cycle of this process, and all of the issues that are unfolding in the country does not actually go well for the country. And part of the reason why we all agree to a multi-party democracy is for the people of the country, of our country, we the people, to have a say in the democracy. And completely, people have always done that ever since 2005. But the first time to see these things happen where people will trample on the rule of law, it's quite unfortunate. And again, we finally heard from the Liberian Senate that they will recognize the majority side, and they will recognize Richard Nagbe as the the Speaker of the Honorable House. I believe that is also a very frustrating and unfortunate, and very counterproductive information we're hearing. The opinion, the justification basically for that decision is based on the opinion coming out of the Attorney General. Now, the onus is on us as people to challenge some of those things and speak against them, because the Attorney General himself is a party litigant. How can you follow a decision or opinion from a party litigant to this process? It's quite unfortunate. I thought they would have said that we are following the judgment coming out of the Honorable Supreme Court. But now they're saying they find the opinion or the interpretation, not even opinion, the interpretation of the Minister of Justice is quite unfortunate. But again, that's part of the process. We now, the major constitutionalists, we got the responsibility and the extraordinary responsibility to begin the process of speaking truth to power and trying to criticize those kind of decisions to show that the rule of law is not undermined. And an attempt for those that are trying to undermine the rule of law, we should continuously expose them and debunk them, refute them, and debunk them, and bastardize their attitude. These are very unfortunate time of our country. But again, I suspect that this process is going to continue, and the speaker himself is very adamant that he's not going to resign. And this process is going to continue for now, the way it's going to. But again, what is unfolding currently in the government is that the government is via the executive now decided to work along with those guys. So I wouldn't be surprised if I see all of they started doing it already anyway. The government officials would go to their meetings and they would turn all documentation over. So with what is currently unfolding, what I suspect now, therefore, is that the speaker, I'm still calling the speaker because I believe he's the legitimate speaker. The speaker is running out of time in terms of, I believe those guys are going to withdraw his security details. I'm going to believe they're going to do that very soon. Information we got this morning that he met with the president asked him to resign. That is unconfirmed. We still hope that, I don't know who will be from the speaker side going to confirm this, but there's the information we got that the president asked him to confirm. And he said, and from that meeting with the president this morning, his response was that he wouldn't resign. He would just leave. He would just leave. Meaning, I don't know what the definition of that meaning, that he would just leave. He was just going to pack his things and leave. He's not going to announce that he resigned, but he's going to leave, pack his things for the office of the speaker and leave. If that is true, meaning what does he want to prove here? Is it that he want to believe that the guys that are sitting there, they are illegitimate? He want to illegitimize them or so? But yeah, these are things that we're getting from that end. So, but it's quite unfortunate. It's a very long haul, and I believe that we need to come to some finality so that the country can function. And basically, this unfortunate process that led by those guys in the need of removing a speaker is quite unfortunate. So we as people, we just continuously begin the process of standing our ground and criticizing those that are against the constitutions. And we, the constitutionalists, will condemn them and debunk them for that. But again, it's quite unfortunate.
Well, thank you, Pewee. My understanding is that I was briefed by someone who was involved in that meeting. There are two different meetings, I think, with the president. The president invited the speaker, and then the president, in fact, I won't be exact. Okay. This president, okay. The president invited the speaker, and he asked for the speaker resignation. The speaker said no. The Supreme Court's ruling supports him. Then the president said, well, he have a different opinion. And he said, he would take the office and security. And the speaker said, okay. But I was told the EPS boss who was there, he asked to try to tell the speaker, say, yeah, why does he think they resign? The speaker said no. And so that's where they are. But then to my surprise, I see the Senate. I'm surprised that I'll be very honest with you. I'm very surprised that Senator Kanga Lawrence, the president of the Senate, to have even come up and over released that the Senate recognizes Richie Kuhn as a speaker because the Justice Minister interpreted the Supreme Court's ruling. When have we ever come to the point where the Attorney General, where he's the final arbiter of legal disputes? Because as far as I'm aware, he's the Dean of the Supreme Court Bar. This Justice Minister is the Dean of the Supreme Court Bar. Yes, but to come and say that people are relying his interpretation of the Supreme Court's ruling to be the reliance is just ludicrous because it makes no sense, and they shouldn't high honor that. The Supreme Court is the highest decision-making body in the country. I mean, legal that handles legal matters, and they came out and said, "Look, what you guys are doing is unconstitutional, is illegal. Holding suspending people from committees, holding election for a new speaker is all illegal." Okay, they were clear with that, but the judge didn't go further because it's not in the scope to say you should return to whatever the case.
Yeah. It's unfortunate, and part of the reason about this is that the Supreme Court, I mean, the Minister of Justice himself is a party litigant here, and I mean, that is a very unfortunate decision coming out of the Liberian Senate. It's quite unfortunate, and my information is that I think 6 senators voted against that decision, but the rest of them, the majority block again. In the Honorable Liberian Senate, took the decision to recognize, to go by that thick and nonsensical thing they call opinion or analysis from the Minister of Justice. Now, the Minister of Justice himself was part of the whole thing. How can you? So it's just unfortunate. I think the country will just have to. For now, we should expect some of these things, but the country will just have to move on, so that we face what we because that's part of the consequence that the process of electioneering will bring to bear in some cases. So I wouldn't even want to waste time on discussing the issue of such that the Liberian Senate would base that decision moving forward. So that's what I'm saying. The next thing moving on is to begin the process of finding means to probably evict the speaker from his office or withdraw all security details and the rest of that from the speaker. So, and that's one of the reasons. And I will say this, Claire, part of the reason why I said the speaker is right. The speaker was on the side of the law. He's also again on the side of the law today. But sometimes there are certain battle you just call it a quit on the basis you justify that you being on the side of the law and move on. There are a lot of folks that have always been on the side of the law and seeing certain battle and don't allow the battle, don't drag on the battle. You live to fight another war. It's not in all cases that you want to push on to fight this. Mr. Speaker, you live to fight another war. You cannot fight this process to grass. No, coming from grace, you cannot fight a certain war until you are captured. No, don't fight the war that way. Done. I can always say this. As a young picking coming up, observing the process when the war came, a very little boy, but I normally reflected, and I would sit sometime and want to begin to reflect back in the days, why did Samuel Doe allow himself to be killed, right? Sometimes it's quite unfortunate. You always have to, they say, when Baboon stop hearing the whistle sound, then there's trouble coming. Baboon should always hear the whistle sound, or Marcus should always hear the whistle sound. So there will be time to come back and re-governize yourself, re-governize in the way and manner that you can strategically re-engage the process and have a say in this matter. I don't know if the strategy of the speaker is to fight on completely thereafter he resigned from the House of Representatives. I don't know that's his thought process. I wouldn't be inclined to know this, but I suspect that should be part of the game plan. That's the reason why he's going down this route. But the fact that the president will call you now and ask you to resign, and after all of what I've unfolded behind the scene, it's clear that they don't want to work with you. And I just want to remind the Honorable Speaker, Mr. Speaker, the presidency is a powerful institution in our country. Past precedent will even go beyond the imagination, the common imagination to get you out. But again, if it is true that this morning meeting what actually center on your resignation, it is just prudent that you call it a quit and you throw in the towel. And then you wait to see, probably you move back, you retreat, and do some thought, sober reflections, and do some recalibration and see what's going to be the next move. Now, the former chairman on judiciary of the Honorable House of Representatives, former deputy speaker of the Honorable House of Representatives, now speaker. Now, the fight that all of this water battle that is unfolding, my advice now is to throw in the towel and go back and do some strategic reflection. Probably that you can say, come back and fight another day. But I believe that the level this battle is reaching, and you've been having some guys that have been very loyal to you. But I don't think, and those that are advising you continue to say, oh, hold on, it's not going to help you again, Mr. Speaker, on a serious note. I will say this to you. I know you on the side of the law, but again, it's time that you just abolish those that are asking, hey, you don't think it's time that we do? You can still do a strategic thing. I won't tell you what to do. I will, if I was in your case, I will retreat and completely resign and begin to form a very serious ally base in that institution. I would have done that. And there where you will show your strength. You can still be political and still have some, you use that leverage and build a very powerful side. You have, the information is that you have like 30 persons, to have 30 persons in that institution, because most of those guys don't have boys, right? If you can have the 30 guys, you'll be a very formidable force in that institution. So I would think it's no time to say you want to hold on, no time of proving to be overly defiant. I think it's time that you just call this a quit, Mr. Speaker. And I'm saying it directly to you. We saying this kind of a thing. We've been here, and that's probably my reason why I was looking into this thing ever since. I do not support the action against you on a serious note, but it's time that you just call this and move on. Now, the Honorable Liberia Senate is going to start the process of start working with these guys. They will send correspondence to them when they pass in the bill. They're going to send to them also, and they'll leave you in the loop, right? And you're going to be completely isolated. This sense of isolationism that will cloud you as even if you carry the name and then you don't have detail on other things. It doesn't make any sense here. And I would think that I don't know if the family is talking to you or other companies talking to you or people that support you also saying some things to you. It's just about time, Mr. Speaker. It doesn't worth it. And you can probably be strategic and go back and fight. I know you can do it. And I understand this process because remember here, the deputy speaker from your own political institution, he left you houseless. And we talked, and it was at the time I said the camelback had been broken. It was the time I even came in at this point and said to you, Mr. Speaker, it's time. But some of the comrades didn't understand from where I was actually coming from, right? But again, the team understand that the process to remove you was totally illegal. But again, if you have someone, that's like the Julius Caesar whole scenario. You've been stabbed at the back, and those kind of backstabbing tendencies is dangerous in the brotherhood. So sometimes you want to think you don't want to fight, or there's no dead hero, Mr. Speaker. There's absolutely no dead hero. The only hero we can find is the hero that will survive and come back and live to fight another war tomorrow. That's the speaker. That's the hero we have. So for the time I watched this show called "There's No Dead Hero," I realized in my strategic process as a politician, as someone that studied the science myself and read a lot of different kind of a book, all the books, reading the book of Prince from the great philosopher Machiavelli and other things, it broadened my perspective on how to analyze issues and when to engage and disengage. When to engage and disengage. The great singer would say there will always be time to sit on a gamble table and play. There will be time to count the money, but it's time to engage, Mr. Speaker. So I think for me, the whole thing, we just need cycle here. And this battle is not your battle now. The way everyone is departing. So it's about time that you be a strategic thinker. Yeah. Be that strategic element that would think beyond and tell the guys that are supporting you, gentlemen, you fought a great fight. It's about time that we retreat. Yeah, call your chairman on Ways Means, Justin Sibo. It's a big brother that I respect. So there's no need of being on camera performing all the drama. No need of doing those things in altercation with journalists. There's absolutely no need. It's about time that you strategically retreat and begin the process of saying how best we can. Because if they were to engage you this way and try to undermine your legitimacy or undermine your legitimacy in a way that they punch you, it's about time that you do something strategic that will respect you. I don't know the detail of the conversation you had with the president, but the outcome of that meeting was to ask you to take the back door. And somehow you didn't like that. But you cannot stay on and wait to the end. Because eventually, the executive is going to do everything to use some manipulative skills to get the guys. And to get the guys eventually in terms of getting the number, it wouldn't be a good thing for you to push to say, oh, they want to suspend or expel you. It's time. The fact that the executive is openly supporting the illegal removal of your legitimacy. It's about time that you just look into this process and move on. That's our country, Mr. Speaker. So I just wanted to take this time. Welcome that Peabody. I just want to take this time to say that to you, and that's my personal opinion.
Good to see you, Sylvester. Good to see everybody. Seems like I have the contrary here, Sylvester. If I was Speaker Kofa, I wouldn't go a damn place. I would stay there until everything messed up. If I can still fight, I will fight to the end. I never heard in a country where the justice minister is now the Supreme Court to interpret the law. I think many times, Liberians, we say, oh, let's just leave it for peace sake. Let's just leave it for peace sake. For that reason, people continue to do what they are doing. Because every time we sit there and people come, oh, let's forget it. Or look, it's Speaker Kofa got the mean to fight to the end. I would say do it. It's too much. It's too much deceit. It's too much insubordination to the law, disrespect to the Supreme Court. What they did was bad. Supreme Court came out interpretation, and you got people sitting there and say they are interpreting the law or the justice minister. That's the first time in my life I ever saw justice minister doing the work of the Supreme Court. I will say, Speaker Kofa, fight that you can't make it no more. Don't give up. Even if they take your security details, keep doing it. I mean, this is wrong. This is sad and wickedness. This is a complete attack on democracy. And you, Joe Biden, that won the election, President, we could have taught and said, you know what? I will not give it to you because the margin was very low. President, we took up and said, I will give it up for the sake of peace. And he left to do that. And you won. And you are doing that to somebody who was elected. And you are going behind him doing this kind of thing. What kind of country is Liberia? That's what I always say. Joe Biden does not have, he can't lead that country. He can. He cannot lead Liberia. He's a poor, sick, broke man that came to power and got now the stealing money all over the place. He doesn't know what look, I don't want to use some of the word here tonight. He doesn't know what's going on in his government. He doesn't know nothing. He just sit there and people tell him do this and he does. Because he got no control. He does not control this government. He's just there to create problems, and the problem he's creating right now. But I would say to Speaker Kofa, fight to the end. If you need to go back to the Supreme Court, go back to them. Let's see what happens. But for too long in our country, we sit there and we see people doing wrong. And then we say, oh, for the sake of peace, he will just leave it. For the sake of peace, just leave it. This is wrong. This is totally wrong. So what I will say to Speaker Kofa, fight until you can't fight no more. Because only a loser will quit. I will fight till I can't fight no more. I think what happened, what the Supreme Court did, I mean, even the Senate, I mean, it's so stupid that you say the justice minister interpret, you go against the Supreme Court ruling and say the justice minister interpret the law, so you're going to go by it. I mean, some of the folk in the Senate, excuse my language, but they are some of the most, I don't want to say it. I just don't want to say it. I would just put the letter there. People that you ever, bunch of rogues and criminals. That what Liberia can develop. Liberia got nothing to show. Liberia, nobody want to come there. Nobody want to invest there. Look at the fire truck that went to the Capitol building today. Look at that thing there. No tire, Harley. You know, no tire. Benjamin, I sent you the link. That's what nothing will come out of that country. And people sat down and what somebody wrote. We fought. We killed each other. We killed President Talbert. We jumped around. Look what we're doing. Our own traditional people. Look what we're doing to each other. We can't run the country. Joe Barker came in there and he had divided it on ethnic lines. I mean, he had put in all his people, the federal ministry, he had put them there. He had put people, I said today, even he had pointing some of his relatives and all in government today. Is that the kind of country that we want to run? This old man could not rule Liberia, but Liberia are hard to hear. They're hard to hear. I knew this old man couldn't rule that country. I mean, he lacked the energy. He lacked the willpower. He lacks the vision to rule that country. And that's why we're seeing all these nonsense. The constitution changing now that just the minister is the one that is empowered to interpret the constitution, all those kind of things. I say, Speaker Kofa, if you're watching, don't give up. Fight, Bubba, until you can't fight no more. Then leave it. But only a loser can quit. Only a loser will quit. But I will fight until I can't do it no more. Let them take. You already have better cars. Let them take the car. Let them take the security, whatever they want to do. Let them take it. But I will not give it up. I will fight and fight to the end because that's pure wickedness, pure nonsense, pure violation of the Constitution. That what Liberia will not go anywhere. Nothing happening, nothing good can happen in that country. Because the moment you try to put your foot down to do something, they go after you. And that's what happened. That's how he went and messed the whole CPP up, right? The whole CPP. He went and messed it up. He's a big tribalist. This president is a big tribalist. All day he talking conquer country, conquer country, conquer country. That's what he does. And that's why you see from the kind of point in government. He's a complete the Supreme, I mean the Senate too, they're a big F to come and say that kind of nonsense today. Good to see you, Anthony. Good to see you. But I will fight to the end. That's what I would do.
Well, look, like you said, regular Peabody. I don't know when it became a reliance for the Attorney General to interpret opinions of the Supreme Court. I mean, and then I see the leadership of the Senate. They are relying on it to say, yeah, based on that, why they're going to recognize the so-called majority bloc. That's a reliance they carry on. I'm surprised that at DeLong, I'm surprised that Yombly, and I'm surprised at them. They're the one who called for the top of rule of law, respecting the Constitution. But I would single out Senators McGill and Augustine Chair. They have been very clear. You know, Senator McGill was clear that he does not support what the Senate is trying to do. And Augustine Chair is a lawyer, and he said that they are proceeding wrong. Councillor Gongloe, they are people who are respected people. They say they're proceeding wrong. And for them to say that the reliance is just embarrassing and shameful. But I know the U.S. embassy, I was told that they either have met with Councillor Kofa or they are invited him, and they are not happy with the people trying to undermine the Constitution of Liberia. And I will say this: Donald Trump takes office in 41 days. In 41 days, you have a new sheriff in this country. This is a man who has no respect for African countries. He doesn't regard them, so to speak, whether you say your traditional allies. In fact, like Professor Kennedy said yesterday, Trump first term, he tried to cut USAID budget by 30%. And Liberia gets the support, direct budget support from USAID, from the U.S. government through USAID. It will affect our economy. It will affect our budget. If the U.S. government decide to further cut, and if the ambassador is reporting that the people are now they are undermining their own constitution, it won't look good. You know, it won't look good at all. And then too, I spoke to one of the lawmakers today. He said that ECOWAS also said that if they remove the speaker on illegally, they will not accept Liberia representatives at ECOWAS. So if you think you're sending a new people at ECOWAS, they won't allow them to take their seat. They will reject them. You know, and all because of the money. The budget is the money. These guys are consolidating for 2029. That's all they're trying to do. But yes, they are setting a dangerous precedence because tomorrow will say, well, the president must go. Then they'll say well, they have the right to tell the president to go. Then what will be the reliance to? They'll say, oh, they put the president wrong. So right now, two things I will say before I you the time to you, Anthony. My question is, where is the Speaker's Party, CDC? Where is the Speaker's Party, CDC? The CDC is the largest and the main opposition party in the country. Okay? And the Speaker is the highest elected opposition leader in the country right now. It's about time the CDC just stop making statements. Stop making statements. Too much, no more press conference. It's about actions now. Action. Say, well, we'll protect the Speaker. We'll be sure that we have people at his office 24/7 protecting him. Okay? And we'll ensure that if you want to remove the speaker, you have to do it the right way. If you have to do it the right way, the constitution will be backing us. The constitution is backing us that what you guys are doing, they say it's all illegal. You rely on the constitution. It's your backing that what you are doing is unconstitutional. So you rely on them. The public is on the speaker's side. I can see it. He just wrote 15 minutes ago. He will fear nothing, and over 1,000 people now already comment on it already, reacted already on your Facebook page. Okay, so I want to hear from the CDC. I don't care what people say. It's about time a party stand with him. CDC they are the largest opposition party, the main opposition party in the country. They should not sit down and let what's happening now to prevail. They should stand with the speaker, he from the party, and say, no, we're not going to let it happen. We call on our supporters, our sympathizers to go over there and provide the speaker support, full support. What should be happening? So that's what I want to hear happen. But if the CDC sit down and lie to happen, I'm afraid the road ahead will be very, very stormy for them, because these guys will consolidate power, they will control everything, and you have no say. Tomal will be, in fact, if he try to talk, they will push him away. They will force him to even join the party. Don't be surprised if Fala join UP tomorrow, because I want to anyway he'll protect his job. So we want to hear more from the CDC. What are they doing? Will they allow the speaker to be removed through this mean? They will not protect him. So if they will join the EPS, that then provide security for him. So I mean, that's right now all I can say right now. But things are not looking good in the country. The country is on a time bomb. Anything may happen. Don't be surprised. That fire incident that happened today is not for nothing. And I know electrical fault. Something happening. We shouldn't well okay. Yeah, Anthony.
Thank you, Tiffany. Good evening to everyone, to the fellow panelists. Good evening to our followers, listening on the radio as well. People in the social media world. I read the statement of the Justice Minister and the Chief Prosecutor of Liberia, the Attorney General. I am not a lawyer. Don't claim to be one. Don't pretend to be one. I have common sense. I can read and comprehend. And what he said today clearly demonstrates how that position is a political position. This is the same justice minister who was then invited to the Supreme Court on the same basis of this case. And he, pleaded fifth and say he had nothing to do with the kids. He would not alter anything. It is clearly the prerogative of the Supreme Court to carry on our business. He walked away. I have not heard or read anywhere, Tomalin and Mr. Peabody, that a Supreme Court ruling, lawyer will always say they have their opinion, but they respect the decision of the court. They will always say that. But for a justice minister, who is the chief prosecutor of the nation, will come out publicly, go against the Supreme Court ruling, that is, it's a very strange thing to see. But not strange enough for Liberia. Because this is the same country where when Mr. Cummings was falsely accused that he fingered documents, people were saying, oh, just resign for the sake of peace. Somebody's character is being smeared in the public, assassinated, but she apologized for doing nothing. We have a tendency in Liberia where we punish good people and glorify bad folks. I want to respectfully disagree with my senior brother, Sylvester, tonight by saying the speaker have fought a good fight, but at some point, he has to retreat and come back at a later date. In certain circumstances, when you do those things, you have no chance. This is not about Funaki Kofa being the Speaker of the House of Representatives of Liberia legislature. This is about the Constitution and the sanctity of our democracy. A democracy will not function void of the rule of law. You cannot have a functional democracy without the rule of law. The only way we can have a functioning country and a functioning democracy is when we adhere to the rule of law in place. Anything contrary to that, we're heading a dangerous path. What happened today? I don't know about many Liberians. This will not happen in the Ivory Coast where I grew up. Not a second will pass. That whole place will have been upside down. University students stormed the home of a then former retired military general called Guar and drag him up to the streets because he tried to rig an election. Only in Liberia, things like this can happen, and people say, I know you won, but you know, let's do it for the sake of peace. We always try to pamper bad behavior. The oldest republic, arguably, because it's between Ethiopia and Liberia, and we are still here in 2024 discussing, even trying to educate those who claim to be lawyers. And they will say, oh, but he listed 4 counts. And the Supreme Court did not grant any. The Supreme Court dismissed all of those 4 counts and said, you don't even need these counts. Their behavior is out of line. So those counts were granted in the Grand Slam by saying, you didn't even have to even list count. Their behavior automatically stands no ground. For us to be here today, I want to encourage Speaker Kofa. I don't know you, you don't know me. I have no personal relationship with you, never supported you for any political affairs, but here's what I have to say for you. You are the lifeline of our democracy. You are the cornerstone of our democracy. This has never happened before in our country, where people who have been placed under political pressure to withstand such pressure, history is being written. Stand and stand firm. The Liberian people are behind you. This administration has no power to remove you with force. Not even one soldier from the AFL can even try. Not one. Not one member of the LMP, nor the EPS, can dare try to remove you by force. If they have 49 members and can accord you a due process and properly remove you from office, we will respect that. We're the same people who are saying, we will respect the decision of the Supreme Court. We will respect the decision of we're the same people that were saying that yesterday. The very same people prior to the decision of the court were holding press conferences all about, talking about, oh, we'll respect the decision of the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court now has ruled, because it is not in your favor, you try to force it. How dare you? You want to ruin other people's Christmas? Yours will be ruined. So the president and this administration, the ball is in your court.
Yeah.
Do the right thing. We are behind the speaker. We are behind the Constitution. We are behind the rule of law. Are you back my time?
Yeah, I was speaking 2 minutes, at least 2 minutes. Okay. Yeah, big. Yeah, let's.
Yeah. So quickly,
Benjamin Jonah, check your inbox. I sent the link. Ben Jonah.
I sent it to him. What's saying?
It was needed 2 minutes.
Eugenia, you check your inbox.
Something you said about, and my position just now, not for people to agree or not to agree. So we come just express what you want to say. What I said this evening, I said that's my personal opinion. No one got to agree with me or disagree with me. Let me quickly say, you guys all would like to look at Liberia like this.
Oh, I didn't hear you say
the process about what is unfolding in Liberia. Liberia does not have a unique style of politics. There's no democracy itself got its own imperfection. That is clear. Democracy itself got its own imperfection. You're talking about Cote d'Ivoire. Cote d'Ivoire is a country you want to say, oh, it can't happen in the country I grew up in. Come on. What do you want to say about Cote d'Ivoire? The current president of Cote d'Ivoire flagrantly disregard the rule of law, the constitution of that country. Then you can't sit here, you want to add a Cote d'Ivoire claim. The current president flagrantly disregard the constitution of that country. He violated the constitution blatantly. Don't come and give morale play I grew up. It is clean in terms of the democracy. It's not. He did. He blatantly violated the constitution. He went for a third term. Is that the same thing? They say it can't happen in my country that I grew up.
The Constitution was amended.
It was not amended. He violated it.
The Constitution was amended for him to run for a third term. That's a different ballgame.
The president said 2 terms. He violated that process. The entire ECOWAS.
Do they have a new constitution? The answer is yes.
All the region condemned me. ECOWAS condemned me. There was
were Gay Robert removed from office by the university student? Yes.
What's on it up? No, it's not that you should talking about.
All right. Let me give you a time to if you want to engage now, I'll have a time to respond.
No, I'm not going to engage you on that. That's what I say. What you say is a blatant misinformation. You don't come and buy our time here on this show. We will correct that Africa is not clean. The president there violated the constitution and he's president today for a third term. I just thought to remind you on that. Let me move back to the process here. What I'm saying about what is unfolding is not about someone fighting to the end. You will fight to the end. You fight or what you always retreat sometime, and that's what I said. I don't want to respond. I said it already. I don't want to even say something on it again. My advice to him is to call in at this time. The Liberian Senate, you cannot be speaker. All of the people on the other end try to do business with another person that's not. I won't do that for me. In my shoe, I won't do it. The Liberian Senate will not do business with him. He was setting up as speaker from now to December or next year, whatsoever the end of December next year moving forward. They will send every correspondent to the other side. It does not augur well for him. Do you think the other folks that eventually wanted to resign? No, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying this from the perspective that I'm reading things now. We stay condemned it. You wouldn't want to be a leader, my dear brother, and you're sitting somewhere where you the boss.
and you are the legitimate boss, and they're sending correspondence to me rather than you. Will you feel comfortable in that institution? So certain folks resign for some of those reasons. And it's part of the reason what I'm saying is time to just throw in the towel. And I'm sad, it's my personal opinion. But again, I still stand on grounds that there are certain things that happen. I mean, democracy is at the end of the day, my brother, all the things we do, we research those things, and I will end right here. Democracy got its own flaws. And my point to the honorable speaker is just an advice I'm trying to push. I'm not trying to impose I can't even impose that, unfortunately.
Somebody, if I may, 10 seconds before Professor Kennedy come in, please. He implicated me in his expose.
No, I didn't implicate you. What I said to you,
you said I lied.
I was trying to clean it.
Told the public that I told of misinformation, isn't it?
You said Cote d'Ivoire is clean. It's not clean.
All right. I said something. You took it out of context. When Guar tried to cheat for the election during he and Gbagbo, the student got in the street and got him out of there. That is a true story. If you don't,
that whole Gbagbo thing, the military was involved.
That is the example that I gave.
The military was involved.
We shouldn't do this.
They're not wasting on Cote d'Ivoire.
Can you allow me to speak?
The military was involved. One of the students, the military was involved into that issue of gay rebellion.
Brother, I live right in Cote d'Ivoire when nothing happened. What are you talking about?
It's not about how long you live in Cote d'Ivoire. I understand the.
It's not about how long I was in the community in Cote d'Ivoire. But don't do this now. We should not do this. We should not do this on the show. So here is the thing. I made a reference to a particular circumstance, very specific, right?
No, you said it won't happen in Cote d'Ivoire.
The Constitution for Alassane Ouattara to run for the third time. That was not what I was talking about. I said that people, the citizens, got in the street, predominantly university students. That's what I said. You want to challenge that? If you say
let's move on. I don't want to keep talking Cote d'Ivoire. Let's move on, please. Let's move on.
No,
I don't want to keep on. I'm not discussing Cote d'Ivoire again. I don't want to waste
we are on a national radio. We are on a public space, and a lot of people listen to us. I'm not a perfect being. If I make a mistake, I will own up to my mistake. But do not distort my statement. I said, and I made a reference to the circumstances of Guar, the retired general. Okay? That when he tried to rig the election, the people got in the street and got him out of there. That led to his death. Okay? I'm just talking about the resilience of the people. When the people are fed up, they rise up. Are you back by time? Hello, Professor Kennedy. Sorry for taking your time.
Professor Kennedy. You know, but before Professor come in, here's my point. What is unfolding in Monrovia is a gross disrespect to the Constitution. I've never seen anywhere where the justice minister come up. After Supreme Court gave the opinion, justice minister come up with their own opinion, and then the Senate and others say they flow with it. I've never seen it before. Maybe in other countries. I've never seen it in my life. But what I would say, based on my personal reason, if I was in our Chairman Kofa, we would do it to the end. If I be the victim, let me be the victim. But sometimes people got to stand for something rather than our old Liberian verb that people tell you, just leave it. You know, that small country, you just forget it, let it go on. That's all I got. If I Speaker Kofa, I will not resign until they really force me out of there physically if I get out. Go, Professor Kofa, welcome.
He said Professor Kofa.
Sorry, Professor
Yeah, that's a good one, Doc. Look, it's always good to have a spirited debate because you learn from each other. We learn from each other on TCA. But I tell you, man, I don't know if I should be surprised, or maybe I'm not really surprised, because I think that's a reason why Liberia remains poor, right? I mean, when you have Nyenwolo coming out and saying they're going to follow the dictates of the justice minister, not follow what the Supreme Court actually says, it tells you the system is rigged, right? Because if the Supreme Court is telling you, saying, hey, following this particular article, the majority, minority, bloc, whatever you want to call them, if they're acting outside of their powers, it's completely illegal, which is in essence the saying it's unconstitutional. Then you have your justice minister coming now and giving a completely total interpretation. What would anybody expect Vonnie Sherman to say, who's representing the majority bloc? They will all say that, but the justice minister should actually follow the dictates of the Supreme Court. But bear in mind, we're in a country where the system is actually rigged. So we shouldn't be surprised that he would follow what the executive is telling him to follow. But I tell you this, you're not going to grow or develop Liberia. And there's a reason why Liberia remains a top, when you look at the ECOWAS nation, it remains a top 5 or top 3 poor country in the region. It's because the political system is not inclusive. What you're seeing, I want Liberians to pay close attention, because what they're seeing happening right now is a precedent. People are establishing the new norm and the new rule to hijack the entire legislative process. And there's a saying, right? What they're doing, they're not going to be the last one to do it. There are going to be others following them who will follow the same procedure. And they're going to use the exact same ruling from the Supreme Court now to uphold their own behavior, to say that it's okay for me to do what I'm doing. Why? Because, well, it was done before and it was accepted. But there's no way you're going to be successful at bringing investors to your country, because when investors are looking for places to put their money, they look for a stable political environment. The political system in Liberia is completely unstable. And to Pewee's point, to Sylvester Pewee's point yesterday, it probably won't take too long before the U.S. State Department start maybe putting some warning out there in terms of stability in the country. What was it that Pewee said? When they have the different classes, level 1, 2, 3, 4 in terms of security levels in the country. So I wouldn't be surprised at some point if they said, look, this environment is really unstable, and that would drive away investors. So this first year of President Boyka's term has just been a complete fiasco. From the instant he did his inaugural address up until the end of the year, it's just been one cantankerous engagement after the next. And you don't have to be a UP or for or against UP, ANC. It doesn't matter. As a Liberian, when we see wrong, we have to call it out. We don't have to love Speaker Kofa, but we just want to say, look, let's do stuff the legal way, because if you don't fix the judicial system, the country is going nowhere. And that's why we remain poor. So I will yield back over to you, Doc.
Yeah, let me welcome Councillor Stephen Freeman to the platform. He's a Liberian lawyer who practiced law in the U.S. Has his own law firm and so forth. So we just try to for him to
get somebody mute.
I think
yes. So just give his perspective about what's happening. His father is also a lawyer in Liberia too. So perhaps he will help us to give his perspectives on the legal issues happening in the country. We'd like to give all the legal guys the chance to give their perspectives, whether you for or against. But for him, he's independent. He's not a politician, but for him. Stephen, welcome to the closing argument. Professor Kennedy is here. Dr. Peabody, Neo Progressive, Pewee, Anthony Gay, and also our medical man, our nurse, big boy, Benjamin Jonah.
Yeah, man, just from work, man. Just from work. So I just keep running.
Well, thanks for having me. It is a pleasure to join each of you to, opine on the ongoing saga in Liberia pertaining to the House of Representatives and the subsequent decision from the Supreme Court.
Okay, so Peabody, back to you.
We'll go to Jonah, but we'll come to the. Let me ask the council. You've been following the whole saga in Liberia, especially today, where the justice minister came out with his own opinion. I don't know. I'm not of that legal background, but what would you say towards that.
Is that question directed to me, sir?
Yeah.
Can you hear me clearly? I'm actually at the university center. I brought my daughter for swim practice, so I'm here. Look, I think we've all been following what's ongoing in Liberia, right? We started hearing about it from the news up to the time they went to the Supreme Court the first time, and then the subsequent petition that was filed by Kofa and his co-petitioners, and the outcome of the Supreme Court recently. It is important to note that, as you all may already know, the Supreme Court has the constitutional authority as the final arbiter of all constitutional matters in the country. So whenever the Supreme Court makes a decision, that decision is binding on all parties. It's equally very important, though, that in rendering their decision, the court has to be clear. The court has to be consistent with its interpretation of the law. I'm not in the business of second guessing the court, but what I will say is there are procedural requirements from the Constitution when it comes to the remover of a member of that House of Representatives. That includes the Speaker. Article 30 specifically lays out what is required to remove a member of the House. You must have 2/3, and on Article 20, it requires due process of law. So if you notice, in Kofa's petition, he raised several issues, 4 issues to be more precise, and then he actually cited Article 20 of the Constitution. In essence, Kofa was saying, you want to remove me, but there has not been any due process of law, right? If you look at the minister's statement that came down today, the minister did a very good job in analyzing the case. Look, in fairness to the court, I have not read the entire decision from the court. I read the 3-page opinion, the 3-page conclusion of law, or 3 paragraphs. The bulk of it was just the case caption. The minister indicated 3 bases for which he thinks that his interpretation of the Supreme Court's ruling is valid. And then among them, he says that Article 33 requires that a majority, which is a quorum, a majority from the House constitute a quorum for them to do their business. And that's what Article 33 says. And the Supreme Court, in their analysis, the focus was on Article 33 and 49 specifically, right? So the minister now extrapolates from the court's decision and says, well, on Article 33, it calls for a quorum to carry out the business of the House. He then look at that and says, well, 40 or so members from the House, the so-called majority group, constitutes a quorum. Under the House rules, it also requires that in order for the House to carry out its function legally, inconsistent with the Constitution, there must be a chair, right, for the presiding officer to take. Under Article 49, it calls for either the Speaker, and in his absence, the Deputy Speaker, a presiding officer. So then the minister goes on to say that the majority group that actually were doing business outside the chambers, they had a quorum, they had a chair. That chair was occupied by the Deputy Speaker in the absence of the Speaker. But under their rules, it also required that the Sergeant at Arms must be present to call the session into order. And third, and last but not the least, there must be a prayer offered by the Chaplain General. Now, if you look at Minister Twer's analysis, he seemed to say, well, because all of these 4 factors were met when the so-called majority were doing their thing somewhere else, they were acting consistent with the Constitution, and the Supreme Court seemed to agree with them on that. Well, that's his analysis. I don't necessarily agree with that. And the reason I don't agree with that, look, when it comes to matters of constitutional law or in the law,
just a minute before you continue, please, because you in the beginning of your expose, you said he brilliantly analyzed. So
correct.
are you taking that back? Because you said you brilliantly, and to say brilliantly analyze, and you say you
It means to
disagree.
support his own point. That was brilliant.
What
I
I'm
just want you to
saying,
clarify for the public. Yes.
yeah,
So
what I'm saying
yes.
in essence is that he's a smart lawyer. Look, this man, the first time when I read his decision, I called my father, who used to practice law in Liberia for years. My dad said, Toy is a good friend of mine. He's a smart lawyer. He's a trial lawyer, as a matter of fact. Okay. I'm not taking it away from Toy. He clearly shows his understanding of the law. Okay. You can be brilliant in doing something, your conclusion of law may be faulty. All right. Okay. So lawyers take things from different perspectives. Ultimately, that's why we rely on the courts and the court's interpretation. Except in this case, and that's the point I really want to land on. In this particular case, it seemed to me, and I've said it from the beginning, that the court did a poor job. And here's another example of that. Kehleboe Gongloe, your former Solicitor General, a very renowned lawyer, was on one of the stations a few days ago. And he said that the court was clear in its decision that Kofa had prevailed, right? You had another Solicitor General from the Myean administration who actually supports Kehleboe's version of his interpretation. Now, if you have two well-seasoned, renowned lawyers, former Solicitor General, read the court opinion and say that this other guy won, and then you have the Minister of Justice saying that, no, based on the minister said, based on my opinion and my interpretation of the court's decision, the majority side has prevailed. And that's a problem. The reason that's a problem is because as lawyers, we rely on the court's interpretation. The court's interpretation should not be interpreted by lawyers for it to suit their narrative. It should be clear enough so that even if the lay person reads it, the lay person understands it. But if you have lawyers having different views of what the court actually meant, that's problematic. Okay? So, I mean, we're at a point where I think it has resulted in some form of stalemate, where you have Kofa came out, I think, on the day of the opinion, and he seemed to be announcing the fact that he prevailed. He's a lawyer. This man is also, a well-known lawyer in Liberia. So, look, I think we are at a crossroad. What I'm concerned about is at what point did the Sergeant at Arms and the Chaplain General decide that they would leave their places of work, the legislative branch, the official place of the legislative branch of government? They'll leave their places of work and convene with a renegade group, someone else, in order for them to have met the constitutional and legal requirement to function as a house. In legal interpretation, you got to consider the whole context, everything. Context matters. It seemed to me that the minister did not take into consideration that under Article 38 of the Constitution, it called for 2/3 to actually impeach a member. If I use the word to expel a member, you need 2/3. Now, in the minister analysis, he says that
should be 48. Article 48.
48. The minister said that the majority group had asked for the resignation of the speaker. And when the speaker refused to resign, they said they could not sit under his gavel any longer. So they decided to do something else somewhere else. But the Constitution says you must have 2/3 to expel him. So because they could not expel him with the requisite number, they therefore asked for his resignation. But think about the thing. A resignation is an option that one exercises. If the speaker decides not to exercise his option of resigning, then you follow your rules and you impeach him. In this case, you expel him. Because that didn't happen, you go outside and you start functioning there, and you have sufficient number. You say, now we can function as a house. There are just too many inconsistencies in terms of what actually went down, and which is why I think in the court decision, the court could have been much clearer. The court was not clear and has created more problem. I mean, we saw today that we heard that the president invited the speaker to resign. The speaker said, I'm not going to resign. And the things has bust over unless you have some specific questions for me to answer. That's just my perspective on it. I think it went too far.
Yeah, quickly, I have one question quickly.
Yeah,
Let's get Jonah haven't spoken. Let's get Jonah a chance.
Go ahead.
Let him ask the question. That's fine.
Okay. Okay, Sylvester, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. It was actually Article 49, not 48. But my question to you, Council, is that basically the question is that the Supreme Court before, even inviting before this ruling last week, the Supreme Court also invited the returns of the Minister of Justice, the Attorney General. So that I would presume here that he was also a party litigant to this process. Is that correct? The fact that they asked him to file returns.
And the reason for that is, look, for example, in America, the Attorney General is referred to as the 10th Justice of the Court. He's at that level of the court, right? So the Attorney General being the chief prosecutor for the government, the court was essentially asking for him to provide some guidance, to prefer guidance to the court. When matters of this stature gets before a court, oftentimes you find organizations, law schools, bar entities, attorney generals from states, they render their guidance to the court. In this particular case, the court was asking the attorney general to prefer his opinion, his viewpoints as to how this particular issue should be analyzed. And my understanding that he did not do that at the time, and the case proceeded to court.
Okay, so
he was not necessarily a part. He was not a party to the case. Okay. The court asked for him to provide guidance.
Okay, thank you. Are you back?
So I do have one question for you before I can speak. So Article 33 gave the speaker the authority to adjourn every day. So those guys on the other side are saying that the only reason why the deputy speaker was asked to preside because the speaker was absent. So Correct. If 33 gave the speaker the right to adjourn every day, how can the speaker be absent? Is that possible?
Well, if we look at it from Minister Twere's perspective, the House have their own rules. The Constitution is there, and the Constitution provides for the House, for each House of the legislative branch, both the House and the Senate, to carry out, to conduct their own rules, to implement their own rules. So in this particular case, a majority, if you look at Article 33, it says a simple majority of each House shall constitute a quorum for the transaction of business. But it goes on to say, but a lower number may adjourn from day to day and compel the attendance of absent members. In this case, there was a dispute ongoing. I think we have to take that into consideration. There's a dispute ongoing, right? A group of lawmakers decide we're not going to sit under your gavel anymore, and unless you resign. With his refusal to resign, they decide to conduct business somewhere else. Minister Twere's analysis seemed to state emphatically that so-called majority constitutes a quorum. That's the majority right there, okay? And because the speaker was absent, if you look at Article 49, it says, and I'm going to basically just run there quickly. Article 49, which someone seemed to have cited, says here.
Yeah, 49 is about, they said the House of Representatives shall elect once every 6 years a speaker
Correct.
who shall be the presiding officer of that ballot. A deputy speaker
my
and
question
such
is,
other, yeah.
So my question is, if 33 gives the speaker the right to adjourn every day, goes to work, said this is what you need to do, because 49 said you are the speaker, and then 33 said if you don't have that number, you should adjourn every day. Those guys' argument for marking absence is that because he was not there, but he has something to do, and that was to adjourn every day. So how is the man running every day can be absent? Somebody got something on, man.
So that's part of what the court should have addressed, right? Because as I said, Twere's position is that majority group that was absent now constituted a quorum under Article 33, constituted a quorum. And in the absence of the speaker, Article 49 said the deputy speaker can step in. And he is saying that because the speaker was not present at where the majority was, that quorum, right? The deputy speaker legally, under the rules of the House and under Article 33, the deputy speaker could step in. Like I said, there was an ongoing dispute. I believe that in this particular case, the majority group absence of the speaker could have compelled them. If you look at Article 33, it said the lower number can compel the absent members to appear. And it seemed Kofi at some point tried to do that, but I'm not sure to what extent that was possible.
All right, I have two questions for you.
Let me say
question one.
Anthony.
You coming in?
Anthony, let me just say my own. I want to speak. Yeah. So what I would say here tonight is that I think success and failure mean two different things to a lot of people. For some of us who have failed so much, we use our failures as lesson to forge forward. I'm asking the speaker not to resign. A failure, you being booted out, it's not anything wrong. And here's what I say so. Look, guys, I suffered, and this is a personal story. I'll be very fast. I spent a longer time in nursing school, not because I was not a smart guy. The reason why I spent a long time in nursing school was because of the sake of injustice. We were 3 African students. Can you beat yourself?
I'm not the one. There's no noise here. What is going on, Pewee?
Let me go on mute. See what happens.
So a whole university went against the 3 of us, and we had a meeting. One Nigerian, one Cameroonian, and I was the only Liberian. And I said, I will fight this case with the federal government. You know what the Nigerian guy, the Nigerian guy told me? She said, look, my brother, we come here to hustle and go back. Let's forget this thing and just do this thing fast. I was standing on the side of principle. I challenged that school through the federal government. That school, today, that school is closed. They forced them how to work with Black people. It made me to stay long in school. But even though at the end of the day, I lost. But the thing that what I stood for, today there are a lot of African students that benefit from that. So sometimes it is not just about you losing. You can win through your loss. And I want the speaker, if he's listening, fight this thing. If you lost, so be it. But the lesson that will be learned from it is that you're not going to cower to these people. Do not do it. Stand up for something. If you have never done it, some of us did it, and we didn't even do it to the local level. We took it to the federal government, and we stood our grounds. And today, some of our friends can say, Ben, your head is hard. But it was not for nothing. It was for a cause. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
So two
questions for you. One question, and then we'll go to Professor Kenneth.
Two questions for you, Councilman. Does the opinion of the Justice Minister supersedes the decision of the Supreme Court?
No, absolutely not. The court is the interpreter of the law and the Constitution, for that matter. Now, if you notice in the minister's statement, he said it is my considered opinion of what the court meant. Okay, so essentially he's attempting.
But he also did not say he respects the decision of the court. He did not say. I read that document. He did not say he respects the decision of the court.
But I think whether or not he respects the decision of the court is besides the point, because he is saying that the court, he's interpreting what he thinks the court meant, and he said the court's opinion or conclusion his opinion is consistent with the court's conclusion of the law. So in essence, he's saying the court has ruled the way I see the case, and the way I see the case is that this so-called majority group has prevailed. I think ultimately what needs to happen, it may seem embarrassing because courts do not usually come out to clarify themselves. Courts will often overturn themselves. It happens all over. When the court makes a decision in a subsequent case, the court might come out and say we were wrong, and then the court issue a new opinion. But it seems to me because this matter is getting out of hand, and if care is not taken, it gets spilled over. I will encourage members of the court, the jurists of the court. I read yesterday that they were going to come out with some kind of clarification. That hasn't happened yet. And the reason that's important because this involves another branch of government, okay? And given the fragility of our country, I think it's incumbent, the onus is on the court to provide some clarity. Now, this clarity, I think, is very important here because you have different lawyers who are prominent in the country with different views point as to what the court actually meant. The court's decision needs to be so clear so that future lawyers, like the ones in law school in Louis Arthur Graham's, can hopefully learn something from the court's decision. But when you have one person seeing it this way and another person seeing it that way, it creates inconsistency and it creates a result or an outcome we are seeing ongoing now in the country.
Let me ask my last question. So when the court cited Article 33 and Article 49 of the Constitution of Liberia in this particular case, and said that the actions and the sittings was deemed ultra-virus.
Correct.
Right? Once the court mentioned Article 33 and Article 49, because Article 49 gave the speaker being the what's the name? The presiding officer, and you cannot have a quorum if there is not a presiding officer. There is no plenary if the presiding officer is not there. And this presiding officer having to be the speaker of the house, and he was not also absent. My question to you there is that everything they did, all the explanation that the justice minister gave today, they could look at all of those things, and the court said their action were ultra-virus. What say you?
Now, Article 49 says in the absence of the speaker, the presiding officer is his deputy, the deputy speaker, right? That's what 49 says. In the absence of the speaker, his presiding officer is the deputy speaker. Article 33 says in order for the House to function and carry out the business, there must be a quorum. A majority of them have to constitute a quorum. Tuer is saying that because the majority of them were presiding somewhere else and the deputy speaker was there, in the absence of the speaker, that's the proper functioning of the legislative branch of the House. He also went on to say there was the chaplain general to offer prayers as required under the House rules. There was a sergeant at arms also present to call session into place. And so therefore, according to him, the folks that remain at the House, because I read his statement, he said the folks that remain at the House under the gavel of Speaker Kofa were acting ultra-virus. Now, ultra-virus is the term we usually use in corporate settings, right? The problem that there is that the court didn't really expound on that so far. The court didn't really say which group specifically was acting ultra-virus.
We don't know we don't have to speculate here. I'm not a lawyer. I don't claim to be one, but only one group did out of what the court listed. Only one group said we have quorum. Only one group said we voted and we have new speaker. Only one group said we suspended other members of the legislature committees and other. Only one group of people that did it, and the one group of people that did it are the majority bloc.
I get you, and I agree. But what I'm saying is that decision was not so clear to the extent you have Minister Tuer saying that ultra-virus the court referred to is the fact that the people in the chamber were acting ultra-virus because they didn't have the majority to constitute a quorum. They didn't have, let me finish. They didn't have the sergeant at arms to call them into session. They didn't have the chaplain general to pray for them. All of those things are required in order for the House to have its daily functioning. You have to have a majority to do the business of the House on Article 33. You have to have the sergeant at arms to call the session into order, and then you also have to have the chaplain general to offer prayers. Toy is saying they were not present, but they were rather present at where the majority were, and so therefore that is where they had quorum. Look.
No, but the Supreme
Well,
Court.
actually, let me bring other in now.
The Supreme Court was talking about the decision that was taken to 1, remove the speaker, 2, elect a new speaker, 3, suspend other committees member from the committees from various committees. Those were because these were things that the speaker could not pray for in his petition.
Except that the court did not address all of the issues that Kofa put before the court. The court never addressed the issue of the suspension of the other people, the illegal taking of the draft budget. The court only discussed 2 issues.
Because the court said everything that they did, every single thing that was done is illegal, unconstitutional. They didn't have authority to do those things. What say you as a lawyer?
Look, as I indicated before, the court decision was not really clear. And we see that in the way that different lawyers are interpreting the court's decision. And it is important to note, and I agree with Toy on this, that there were 4 issues presented to the court by Kofa. The court only addressed, and the court is not required to address all issues. The court is only required to address issues that are truly germane to the outcome of the case. And this court felt that the issue that was germane to the outcome of the case is whether they had jurisdiction, which they said they had on Article 66, and secondly, whether or not Article 33 and 49 was violated. But in terms of this actual conclusion, the court was not really clear, which is why we have the problem we have going. We have different lawyers interpreting it differently. But the minister could have come and said, clearly, this is what the court says. It's on the face. But instead, he said, my consider opinion, my consider view. He used the word my consider many times in his statement, basically saying that everything
words, the court
okay, let's give the other chance to talk now.
Opinion has nothing to do with the court decision. Is that correct?
But he was relying on the court. According to him, he was relying on their opinion.
Professor Kennedy, come in, if you have it.
Yeah, look, I really appreciate a lawyer being here so we can have this conversation. But I want to kind of take the conversation another way real quick to see in terms of the minister's action. Let me know if you agree or disagree with this statement. Or in fact, let me hear your opinion on this. In October, there were allegations made that lawmakers were accepting bribes to unseat the minister. Do you think the Minister of Justice should have taken action at that time? And well, first of all, I think you will agree that bribery is a crime in Liberia, right? So do you think the Minister of Justice should have taken action against that?
It's very interesting that you actually asked that question, because as I read the minister's statement, he said that the speaker were accused of 2 things. One, he said conflict of interest for having his law practice ongoing. And 2, he says the speaker also accused of corruption. Now, if the speaker is accused of corruption, that's something the Minister of Justice and his lawyers should have investigated as enforcer of the law. Corruption is a crime under our laws, right? So if you think that the minister violated our law by committing corruption as propounded by the majority group, the minister then had an obligation to investigate. So back to your actual question, if members of the House, look, people can lobby all the time. There's nothing wrong with lobbying. But once you start using money to extort or to actually, encourage people who are supposed to carry on the legal function to carry out the function with money, that borderlines corruption. So I think the minister had an obligation to investigate the allegation of lawmakers taking bribes to actually carry on the legal function. And if that didn't happen, that's problematic.
But the minister never did that, right? He never took action against the lawmakers who were openly being videotaped and who were openly admitting a bribe. The minister never took action on that, right?
You see, and that's accurate. He didn't do anything, but there's a slippery slope there, right? There's a slippery slope there.
No, I mean,
We
I
are
totally
talking-
agree with you. You said he
we
did
are-
nothing.
We are talking
Yes,
about
let's stick with
another.
that.
We are talking about another branch. It's important to actually extrapolate the facts, right? We are talking about another branch of government. There is something called prosecutorial discretion. Sometimes prosecutors, attorney generals, okay, would exercise the prosecutorial discretion. Something you might say is politically motivated and things like that. But as to whether or not he will investigate and prosecute, that is his discretion.
So you're saying, now let me get this straight. We realize that one of the major issues facing Liberia is corruption.
Mhm.
You believe that the minister should show discretion when lawmakers are openly accepting bribe?
No,
So
I don't
he
believe
can
that.
use a discretion. And I'm
No,
just
I don't
asking
believe
your
that.
opinion.
What I'm saying is,
Right.
I don't believe that. I believe when the law is violated, part of his job to uphold the laws and constitution of the country is to investigate and prosecute. But even
Okay.
in this, even
So
in
I
this
agree with you.
country,
Yeah,
even in
so
this
that's fine.
country, when someone has
So-
committed a crime, you notice that, prosecutors, attorney general will say, well, I can't really prove the facts of the case. It's too tenuous. Because ultimately you have to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. There's a presumption of innocence.
Yeah, I understand
It still
that.
has to be proven.
Yeah,
So
I totally
if-
understand that. But
Okay.
let's stick with your original analysis that he should have taken some action against those
at
lawmakers.
least investigate it, yeah.
Yeah,
At a
at least
minimum.
he should have taken some action. So
Correct.
the failure to take that action, would you also say it was some of the underlying reason that got us to where we are today? Because if he had in fact prosecuted or pursued that action, investigated that action, we wouldn't be where we are today. Do you agree with that?
Presumably, yeah.
Yeah. So it's always important to understand that what are the sort of the first movers, right? What are the underlying issues that got us where we are? So I think the Minister of Justice lost credibility by not taking action against those lawmakers who were openly videotaped and admitting of taking bribe. So it shows a certain bias, and you can have an arbiter of the law. You can have the Minister of Justice being biased and seeing corruption take place and totally ignoring it, which is where we are today. So I think it completely renders anything the Minister of Justice does as, I can't take it as being credible, because he never showed any, he never held up his duties of pursuing lawmakers who were actually violating the law. So because now he didn't do that, will he be able to have the credibility to go ahead and prosecute other people who are openly using this, who are going to pursue the same tactics to remove other speakers? Do you think he would have the credibility if someone else decides to run the same scam?
Yes, I'm going to answer that. If you remember, in my earlier statement, I said the Supreme Court is the final arbiter on all constitutional and legal matters. And whenever the court decides a matter, that decision is binding on all parties, whether you like it or not, it's binding. Because this court's decision has created so much ambiguity in the various interpretation by other people, I think it's incumbent on the court to clarify the decision. And in their clarity, they should be so specific as to who they think prevailed. The court decision never said, well, we are granting the petitioner's request, and so therefore Kofa would have known clearly by the word granting that he prevailed, and the court didn't say it otherwise. So in order it's not about the minister. The minister, whatever he wrote has no effect legally.
Can I stop you for a second, because you're answering the question I'm not asking? So the question I'm asking, I want to give Isaac Jackson, he's sitting over there, he's ready. I love that brother, Mr. Jackson. When he's on this show, I like to sit back and listen. So I want to give him his due diligence to do his thing, right? Because he's going to do his thing in a minute. But here's the question I'm asking. If the Minister of Justice used, like you said, a certain discretion to not pursue those lawmakers who were openly accepting bribes, I don't know whether, and it was just your opinion, whether he used discretion or not. If he didn't do that, if tomorrow someone else wants to come and use the same tactics, do you think he would have any credibility if he decides to pursue the new group that's going to come out now and openly pay bribes to remove the new speaker? What do you think? Will he have credibility to do that?
As to the issue, well, you may look. I don't think I should second. I don't think I'm in a position to determine whether or not he has credibility or not. I'm not going to play that game. Here's what I'm going to say.
That's fair.
Here's what I'm going to say.
Okay.
Prosecutors do have prosecutorial discretion. That is a fact. They do. However, when a crime is being committed, the government has a duty to investigate it at a minimum. This minister, if he saw videotapes of people engaging in corrupt practices, at a minimum, he had a duty to investigate. Now, after investigating, he chose not to prosecute. That may be because he thinks there's not sufficient evidence to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. And so therefore, he does not want to move forward. Because keep in mind, a prosecutor should not bring a case simply because he's trying to appease a certain group of people. You got to bring a case knowing that the facts is supported by the evidence and you can prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt in court. I'm not going to second guess him because I don't know why he didn't investigate, but given that there was clear evidence of impropriety, i.e. corrupt things going on, he should have at least investigated it.
Okay. So, yeah. So you back over to you, Doc.
All right, Councilor, Attorney Jackson, welcome. Just before, you've been following this show. You've been following the happenings in Liberia. We got two lawyers on the show here tonight, so I want you to just chime in on what your take of today, the Justice Minister using his own opinion for the Senate to follow and say that's the reason we're going to go to the majority block. I mean, I want you to come in touch with that.
Thank you. I will do my best to be as clear can be. I am still of the view that the opinion offered by the Supreme Court was in favor of J. Funati Kofa when the court said that any action not in keeping with Article 33 and 49 or inconsistent with 33 and 49 is void ab initio. That opinion by the court was in favor of Funati Kofa. It remains to be in favor of Funati Kofa. Those who are pretending not to understand it are being disingenuous. Inclusive of those people is the Minister of Justice. And it is disgraceful. You know, what is obtaining in our country today reminds me about Liberia's unhappy past. I'd like to, at this point, applaud the court. I think unlike the Dole area, where the court was being bamboozled and dragged into unnecessary political conflict, where the court served as an enabler of that murderer regime, at least today, the court is in a way distinguishing itself. And we must give credit to the current Chief Justice, Justice Yu. I know she's basically leaving the bench. She will be leaving the bench very soon. I'm of the view that her legacy will tower above former Justice Kehleboe. The information that I'm privileged to, which I will spread on the record, and then we'll go back and forth to our history to remind our listening audience why I think Councillor Oswald Tour, who is a corporate lawyer, not a constitutional lawyer, has done this egregious injustice to his own reputation. You know, he had behaved more like Kehleboe Scar. You know, Kehleboe Scar was the guy who misled the Dole administration all through until he has to end up on the dump site. When you see lawyers being influenced by the executive to provide opinion befitting all that the executive will love, most of the time, those lawyers will end up on the dump site. Like what happened to Kehleboe Scar. You know, we are to that same place again. I'm told in private, the current Minister of Justice told a closest friend that if the government had pushed him to put this opinion that he said he expressed in today outside, he will resign. His closely friend is supposed to be Jimmy Pierre. However, I'm told also, privileged to this information, and the Minister of Justice can clarify and bring his friend Pierre, they can all clarify, I don't mind. I'm told that when the government dangles the prospects of this minister going on the Supreme Court bench in case you resigns as a result of the constitutional requirement of age 70, he capitulated and wrote this so-called opinion in a hurry because he wanted to appease the executive so that he would be a suitable candidate that the executive will nominate in replacing you on the Supreme Court bench. I think if you do these kind of things just to go on the bench, you will not serve the best interest of the law and the Liberian people. And this is where Councillor Pewee has missed it big time. You know that you are in dangerous territory when you try to interpret the interpretation. An interpretation that is very clear for people to understand. Anybody who wants to understand and who wants to believe the code will know that the code basically rule in favor of Fonati Kofa. It does not need any further interpretation. I am told that a bill of information is being proffered. Hopefully it will be submitted to the court, informing the court that the 43 other runaway lawmakers are called the zombie lawmakers. They are being rebellious and intransigent in their conduct to flagrantly violate the court's opinion. And so the court will be informed tomorrow. I am hoping that the court will hold Councillor Pewee in contempt for deliberately misleading the Republic on the so-called explanation he's provided if the Bureau of Information is filed. Because this thing doesn't require any major sophistication. You listen to a respected lawyer of Councillor Gongloe's caliber, and Councillor Gongloe further simplifies something I earlier said on this show, that I've got one of my friends who graduated from the law school just about the seat, he tried to supply meaning to anybody who operates outside of 33 and 49 action is void. And he said any referred to both of the parties in the conflict. No. The any in question is basically in reference to those who have acted outside of the law. And the code has been very clear. Kofa has not shown any sign that he's acting outside of the law when he consistently goes to the plenary that he's supposed to go to, when he goes to that chamber that they originally was making business in. He can't be the one that will say any. The any is in reference to those who took it upon themselves to leave the chamber, the plenary, and go somewhere else to do business. They are the one they could reference it as any conduct outside of 33. And the last time we explained what 33 talk about. 33 basically talk about what, the quorum and who should preside. The speaker will always preside. And when we go to 49, it talk about the speaker and the deputy speaker. The speaker presiding, and then they got established practice and principle and procedure by which the speaker can be removed. If those things are not followed, you are also operating ultra-virus. It's clear and simple. I gave a simple analogy here, which I will always provide as a way of, explaining this so-called sophisticated opinion in a very simple way. If, for instance, you and your wife living in a house and there is a dispute, or if you are agree or angry with your wife that you legally married to, you do not leave that room and go in another room and claim that you have divorced her. Likewise, you cannot leave that room without filing a divorce petition against the woman and following the procedure and go and take another wife. These are simple things that you can't just do. You can't say, oh, I'm angry with my wife. I'm going to my friend Tomalin house and leaving this other state. I'm going to that other state and I will automatically take on another wife. You can't do it. You must file a divorce petition. The petition must contain those claims, and the woman must be given chance to answer. And then, you go through the next thing. Here, there is an established procedure well laid down by which a speaker can be removed. The speaker, you must have a plenary sitting. A motion must be made requesting the speaker to recuse himself on account of the allegation. The speaker will either concede. If the speaker does see you, then maybe like the case with Ellis Tyler and Nukwe, there is a difference. In this instant case, you didn't go to any plenary. You didn't ask Councillor Kofa to recuse himself or Speaker Kofa to recuse himself. The allegations there, he has not been even appraised of the allegation. There is no notice to serving. These are allegations. This is a committee that will investigate you. Come to this committee and you'll be investigated. Nothing of that sort has been done. Gentlemen, we cannot do this to our country. Nobody is above the law. Nobody. And I am really, really embarrassed. Like Councillor Oswald will do this. The last time Liberia saw this, the country slide into crazy. The last time we saw lawyers not showing courage, the country went into crazy. The former Chief Justice Barazé, people forget these things. It was former Chief Justice Barazé, even though from Nimba, who enabled Doe to do some of the egregious violence to our constitution. It was KZB who misled Doe to do some of the terrible things to our constitution. Oswald Twe, a corporate lawyer, come to a political job, wanting to go on the Supreme Court bench, is giving opinion that friendly towards the executive, and is going to plunge the country into crazy. Liberian people must stand up and say no to Councillor Twe. If you don't have the courage now to advise the president, the executive properly, please don't plunge the country into war, into crisis. Because from political crisis, you will get gun violence. Today, we got lawmakers now in hospital. Someone with bloody nose, some severely beaten by police. Look at the inelegance of this. The executive get involved. It gave cushion to the quote-unquote majority blood that are wrong. When they go into session, the police gave them free passes. When the other people from the Kofa side going, the police stopped them. Why is the executive getting involved in this manner? How is it fair? Why are they trying to put the country back into crisis? Why are you politicizing the police once more? In every civilized democracy, the police is supposed to at least be even-handed, be fair-minded. Why is the executive politicizing the police? They will flog the lawmakers that are on Kofa's side, even though the law is on their side, and give free passes to those who are still, flaunting the law, but yet belong to the executive side. This is not a good law for our country. It's not a good law. Gentlemen, we got to go to our history. What is happening now is not the first time ever happened. And when we have lawyers who do not show courage, they put the country into war. The only Chief Justice, the only lawyer in that country that even to his death, because I went to the law school, I know the history of the court, that I would pay respect to, no matter what you say about him, the one person called Chia Chipo. Former Justice Chia Chipo. That's the guy who looked the president in the face and said, Mr. President, you can't do it that way. Even while he was on the court bench as Chief Justice, he still told Doe, you're wrong. Doe got angry and they removed him prematurely. Even though he got removed prematurely, his legacy still looms. For our judiciary to be strong, we need lawyers who can straighten their backbone and advise the executive accordingly. Not lawyer who will kowtow to the executive. When we make you Minister of Justice, you enjoy that independence. You are the only person in the cabinet who can look the president in the face and say, Mr. President, we can't do it this way. Mr. President, they could rule against us. Can we do it the other way? My colleague here was talking about how the Minister of Justice have been sitting supinely, even though the public accusation of lawmaker being induced with bribe money. For him, he's not concerned. that the Section 12 of the penal law has been violated. He's not concerned. He was not investigated. But he will go and provide a slippery justification and basically misinterpret, miseducate, and misinform the Liberian people. This is dangerous. So everything that Councillor Oswald Pewee wrote today belongs to the garbage bin. And hopeful that when the Bureau of Information is filed, the court will treat what he's done as a contempt, and his punishment will be meted out against him for just doing what he's done. Everything he done today, he didn't help the country. He can't be interpretation. He can't be doing that. They could declare the action of those people on the other side to be ultra-virus. How can something be ultra-virus and you still to be in that position? Anything that is ultra-virus is unlawful, outside of your authority. You got to come back. I follow the court proceeding even with the illegal prorogation of parliament in the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom Supreme Court issued similar opinion that the prorogation of parliament was unlawful, and the people had to return. The court said anything outside of 33 and 49 ultra-virus. You still finding explanation? This presidential illegality, you're making the police to be complicit now. You're making even the Ministry of Finance to be complicit in this presidential illegality because you're removing the speaker. They are wrongly seated, and you're still asking, elements in the executive to make business with illegal people. Tomorrow, if the court shoot everything down after the Bureau of Information being filed, what do you then do? When Mr. Oswald Pewee stay in his job, will he resign? I think they are treating the country terribly. And I think it's a shame, it's a disgrace that Councillor Oswald Pewee will drag himself this low. His friend Jimmy Pierre has been laughing at him since today. I've been in the court, I've been around there, I know most of the lawyers. His friend laughed at him and said, but this man just told me that you're not going to do this thing. Even if the executive have pushed him, why is he doing that? And I said, because he said they were carrying on the Supreme Court bench. Councillor Pewee, everything you work for, your reputation will go down the drain. I have watched some lawyers damage themselves under the instruction of the executive. Pewee needs to be careful. He's doing that. He's injuring himself. He needs to be careful.
All right, let me bring Anthony Freeman in, Councilor Freeman in, and then we'll go back around the circle and folks have questions. So, Councilor Freeman, let me bring you back in, and then we'll go around everybody.
Oh, you want me to just respond to Mr. Jackson?
Anything. Just want to.
I clearly agree with Mr. Jackson that my opinion has been that the court, I don't think the court is very clear, but I think the outcome of the decision notwithstanding shows that the speaker prevailed. That position was supported by, as he mentioned, Councillor Gongloe. The outcome of the court decision is such that it clearly states that the folks acting inconsistent with the Constitution, they don't have the authority to do so, and that, as a result, means that COFA prevailed. Notwithstanding, I think the decision was not really clear, because if that decision was so clear, then you will not have the differing view. When courts issue decisions, it should be such that even the lay person can look at it and say, this is what the court actually means. But now you find lawyers like Mr. Pewee interpreting it to suit his narrative. And that's terrible, but at the same time, I think it's incumbent on the court. And if this bill of information is filed to the court, what I would expect the court to do is to be more clear in this dispensation. Because otherwise, you will have people taking different viewpoints from the court's decision. And you don't want to have a system like that, especially given that our country is still fragile. You don't want a situation where the court does not do its job in a way that brings clarity to everybody, and everybody can actually adhere to what the court is saying.
Let me say this to my colleague. I agree with what he just said. I have some sympathy for the position that, the code was not as clear as many people who are love. But again, sometimes some of these Supreme Court opinions are not meant for non-lawyers to interpret. You and myself at least have appreciation of the law and to explain some of these things. So but I mean, one of the things I think Gongloe said, I think I said the same thing, but then he put it other ways. I have said the law is commonsensical, right? He said the law is common sense is the soul of the law. What Supreme Court opinions are? We call them opinion, right? The 5 judges sitting over there giving their opinion. It's not just the opinion of people on the side. Well, why we take it stronger is because they are opinions supported by law. All right. And what they said, they couldn't have been clearer than what they said. That if your action, those who led, if it is not consistent with 33, is what? It's ultra-virus. Do you really believe that anybody can get vexed with the speaker and just leave and go in one room and start to make business because they're in the majority? When even the 33 that the court reference said that what the minority can from time to time compel the majority to come to session. So it's still recognized the constitution, and even the constitutional court still recognize the rightness of the minority to compel these majority people who will be acting ultra-virus to come to session. The court recognizes that and made reference to it. You know what I mean? But again, I got sympathy for the position that maybe it was not as clear as we all would love, all right? And so it's a position that I have some sympathy for. But what we see now following, right? The executive taking side, asking the police to stand on the side of the 43, the president coming and try to unswing this man, asking him to resign. All of these are not just awful. They are just uncalled for. The simplest thing to do, go back. So why are these people finding it difficult to go back to the plenary, correct? And then file a motion for Mr. Kofa to recuse himself on account of these accusations that they have trumped up against him, all right? And then get a committee to investigate the allegation. Why are they finding it difficult to do it the right way? It's a question we need to ask them. Why are they behaving like zombie lawmakers? You are a lawmaker. You can't be seen breaking the law. You can't be seen doing violence to the law. Only a zombie lawmaker would do what they're doing. It's unfair. It's unfair to the country. Look, for almost, I think, maybe 2 months running now, nothing productive has happened from the aspect of the legislature. Is that how we want? Is that what we wanted? And what is the leadership Mr. Bwaka himself exercising? He's been accused of being complicit. He's been accused of paying bribe money. The lawmaker will not go and camp in a hotel for almost close to two months without somebody giving them serious money. How can we not see these evidence that in the public domain? How? These are evidence in the plain view doctrine of the law. These are evidence in the public domain that even a 6-year-old child can relate to. Who giving them all that money to stay in the hotel? If you want to move the speaker, do you have to camp in a hotel? You don't have to. Even what they will suffer subsequently is the fruit of the personal tree doctrine. If the root is rotting, everything that comes out of that tree is rotting. If they're setting wrongly, as the court has said, ultra-virus, everything they're doing that will be wrong. So why would the executive want to be complicit in this illegality? It's sad.
All right.
It's not
All right, let's bring Robert in. Again, guys, if you're just joining us, we have Councilor Isaac Jackson, we have Councilor Freeman here, and then the other panelists on the show as well. So, Robert, comments, question, you're welcome to do so at this time.
So few things, so I can let the 2 lawyers, speak more, I guess, and then I'll step back and listen in. But I heard Attorney Jackson mention, and I've heard this argument since the Supreme Court ruling. Non-lawyers cannot interpret the Supreme Court ruling, and those with appreciation for the law, those who have the academic expertise and the practical expertise in the law, seems to not understand the Supreme Court ruling. So if those who have appreciation, some level of appreciation with the law, are struggling to understand what the Supreme Court have said, then what would you expect from laymen like us who have absolutely no appreciation of the law? I don't know the lawyer on yet, and hopefully I get to know him more. But he just said that the Supreme Court, or he hoped that the Supreme Court would have been more clear. I think in my understanding of what I read, though I'm not a lawyer and I won't pretend to be a lawyer, but I'm not stupid either. I went to school and I can read, write, and comprehend. From my understanding, the Supreme Court could not have been clearer given their limitation on what they could have given an opinion on, given the three separate branches of government. But they could not have been more clear or even more explicit when they said you are sitting, your actions and your sittings are not in conformity with Article 33 and 49 of the Constitution, which is you are in an area that does not conform with the law. You have health section, though you have quorum, but the exclusive power, the home should preside. He has shown up to work, and maybe the lawyer can maybe in his next explanation define what is absence and presence, because absence, and this argument they've made consistently, that the in the absence of the speaker, the deputy has presided. Now raise the question as to what do you mean by in the absence, because he has shown up to work. He has been in the main chamber where they've conducted business, where business should be conducted.
Correct.
They have left. They decided to leave because they refused to ensure due process. They left and went into another chamber. So because you left the speaker where he's supposed to be, because you left the speaker where you guys normally conduct business, and you've gone into a different area, you've camped at RIJ, you've gone all these different places, does that mean that he is absent? But from my understanding, the Supreme Court could not have been clear. Now, maybe the Supreme Court should come and say, you guys must return. Where you are sitting and your actions are not only unconstitutional, but now I'm instructing you to return. Well, as grown men and women, must the Supreme Court tell you that where you are is dangerous and also warn you to move? So this whole interpretation thing is confusing even people without appreciation of the law. The lawyers are stripping; they're all over the place in their own interpretation. Look at what happened today with the justice minister. Look at what I'm not surprised, because from day one, I've said that the government have picked a side. Every action since the Supreme Court ruling is indicative of the side they've picked. They've obviously picked a side. Now you have the entire country, the Senate, the folks who are supposed to be the elder when it comes to congressional business, are now deciding to work with the side, which the Supreme Court have said that actions and sittings are unconstitutional, given the interpretation or the opinion of the justice minister. So here is my question. In a serious country that respects the rule of law, in a serious country that respects law and order, whose opinion and whose ruling should our action be guided by? Is it the opinion of the justice minister, or is it the opinion of the Supreme Court? If we must decide which way to go, not based on sentiments, not politics,
and nothing else but the law. Are we supposed to be guided by the opinion of the justice ministry, of the justice minister, or should we be guided by the opinion of the Supreme Court?
Let me
And
come
if we
in
must be
quickly before I
guided by
leave.
the opinion of the Supreme Court, then why is the Senate and why is the government operating contrary to that? Look, our country, I'll let you answer the question. I'll step back and I'll listen because I enjoy listening to lawyers and people who understand the law. But I've got to say, for the record, this has been, some of the lawyers that I've heard gives me no hope. These guys seem not to understand what they're even articulating. They don't understand the law. Maybe they're being political. They're intentionally being arrogant and ignorant to the law. I have no idea. But from a layman perspective, I think the Supreme Court was very clear. And what you see happening now is politics at play. And I would tell Mr. Kofa, because this is my last comment on this, Mr. Kofa must not resign. Mr. Kofa must not give in. Right? Mr. Kofa must stand tall. We will fight this together. We will fight this together. And the greed, the corruption, the misleadership, well, all of this stuff will come to an end. It's so embarrassing to see where our country is under the leadership of Joseph Boakai. It's embarrassing. Thank you.
All right.
So the funeral cut in. You said you want to go, right?
Let me chime in quickly because I gotta go pick up my daughter.
Okay.
Can I just ask you one question? Why you just concluding? Just one question. Very short.
Yeah, go for it.
So let's say you were the defendant of you were the lawyer for that other group, and this ruling came.
You mean the respondent?
Yes.
The majority part.
Majority group.
Yeah, the respondent.
So if you and then it was said that your group acted ultraviolet, whatever that was. What will you tell your client? Yeah, what will you tell your client? I want to know.
And it is interesting that you asked that question because I'm actually at the Supreme Court's decision. We lawyers can read that decision and say, okay, the court probably means this. The court means that you are acting inconsistent. But there's something I want to point out. Words do matter. The court says, and I quote in this opinion here, which is essentially the conclusion. It says, any sittings or actions by members of the legislature not in conformity with the intent of Article 33 and 49 of the Constitution are ultra various. And you see the problem it created? Twe, the minister, and I think he's clearly wrong. I said it from the very beginning. But in his so-called statement, he takes the legislature to mean the majority group because certain requirements were met. And the requirement, there are 4 requirements that are supposed to be met, both under the House rules and under the Constitution. Under the Constitution, it calls for a majority to constitute a quorum. Now, my understanding is that so-called majority group were more in numbers than the folks that were still at the chambers. Is that correct? So in Twe's analysis, that constitutes a quorum. And he seemed to say that's what the court meant. It also says that now you have the majority constitute a quorum, 2 requirements are met. Secondly, under the House rules, it called for the chaplain to be present to offer prayers. It also called for the sergeant at arms to be present. If you notice in his statement, he said all 4 requirements were met. That's what Twe seemed to say. And then based on that, he says, wherever that majority group that constituted a quorum are sitting, that is the seat of the legislature. Now, I don't necessarily agree with that. But what I think the court should have done, the court does not live under a rock. They are members of the community. They know and they saw the ongoing field. They are familiar with the facts. When a matter comes before an appellate court, I practice in U.S. appellate court, right? There are 2 parties oftentimes. There's a petitioner, and then you have the respondent. In this case, the petitioner was Kofa and the other lawmakers. They made up the petitioners, right? The respondent essentially were the so-called majority group. when the court says, any members of the legislature not in conformity with the article are acting ultra vires. Twice interpretation is these guys met the constitutional requirement for a quorum. The court, Article 33 said you need a majority to constitute a quorum. Twice said that's a quorum. He says the sergeant at arms follow them. He also says the chaplain general follow them and offer prayers at the beginning of the session. This chaplain general from the house. And my question is,
how who was acting in utter virus now? Who?
Now the court says any member of the legislature. That creates a confusion. The guys that went out, they are members of the legislature. The guys that remain, they're also members of the legislature. What I thought the court should have said clearly on the face of the document, the respondent, everyone knows who the respondents are, the so-called majority. The respondents, essentially, those lawmakers that boycotted are acting inconsistent. Their action is unconstitutional. Kehleboe Gongloe, in his amicus brief he wanted to file with the court, he made some relevant points. And in Kehleboe's amicus, it's not the whole thing. He says, and I quote, and that would be what I will conclude with. He said the amicus praised the honorable court to declare the removal of Speaker Kofa unconstitutional, right? His replacement by Honorable Kuhn unconstitutional. The suspension of Marvin Cole and the restructuring of the leadership unconstitutional. What do you notice there? You notice that Kehleboe used the word, because what went before the court in the petition was the constitutionality of the action of the so-called majority group. That was the essential, those were the essential issues before the court. They borderline on whether or not their action is constitutional. The court is a constitutional court. It's the final arbiter of all constitutional matters. Here you have issues of law bordering on the constitutionality of the action of members of the House of Representatives, and yet the court, and this is why I have a problem with the court. I understand Councilor Jackson's viewpoint on that, and I'm a lawyer, so I read the language and I know that what the outcome is. The intended outcome is that Kofa won, but the court could have been clearer on the issue of whether or not their actions were constitutional or unconstitutional. The court could have simply said the action of the respondent I hereby declare unconstitutional. No lawyer would have questioned that. None whatsoever. Because you used the key phrase, the respondents. We know who the respondents are in this case. They are the relegate lawmakers, those so-called majority group. But when you said any member of the legislature are acting ultra vires, and then the court further says in its analysis that there is no mechanism in the law, in the Constitution, but also promulgated by the legislature to compel the so-called majority to come back to session. I don't agree with the court on that, because on Article 33, it says that the minority group can compel the absent members to come back to section. Yet, Councilor Johnson seemed to say that the court is clear, but at the same time, we see the court saying there is no mechanism on Article 33 by which the minority group, Kofa and his lawmaker who remain at the chamber, for them to compel the other guys back to the chamber. You see the problem it creates? You hear that after the decision was handed down, Kuhn said we're going to remain at the hotel for another week or somehow extended period of time. Had the court simply said the respondents were acting unconstitutional and thereby, their behavior is inconsistent with their own rules and the constitutional requirements, we know exactly who the respondents are. But we also know who the members of the legislatures are. The members of the legislature consist of both the so-called majority group, because they have not been expelled yet. They're still members of the legislature. They also
so are there implied laws? Are there laws that are implied? Are there that laws that are implied?
I beg your pardon?
Are there laws that are implied?
My colleague, let me just come in quickly here, so I can.
I won't be here for you for me to hear your side, sir. But daughter, at least I said.
No. I mean, I take your point, like I've said. So basically, I think what you're doing is basically concurring, but then coming at it from a different point, which I acknowledge, right?
Yeah. But
yeah, so I acknowledge what you're saying, and I say I have sympathy for the position you're taking, that the court could have been clearer than what it did. You know, I have sympathy for that position, right? You concurring, but you come in from a different point, which I acknowledge. But when you learn your tone, I can come in and provide further explanation why I think the court ruled in the manner in which it did. I think it was predicated upon the petition that was filed before the court by the petitioner. It was an in-re petition, basically requesting the court to declare those people unconstitutional. They're sitting unconstitutional. And that's what the court did. But I can provide some clarification when you through.
Which is why the court should have clearly stated, more specifically, that the action of the respondent were unconstitutional. They did not do that in this case. And so you're saying that there's information that has been filed with the court. I'm hoping that the court provide more, some kind of clarity, so that all this confusion we see going on, but even some lawyers misunderstanding, including the Minister of Justice. The Minister of Justice clearly is on the wrong side in his interpretation, and I hope the court brings some clarity. Thank you. It's about 7:35 now, if I may be excused, sir.
No, but thank you. I think your intervention has been productive, even though I met you here, but I must acknowledge that, you come at it, from an impartial standpoint, and then I acknowledge it, so I know we can, take leave of you, but we can acknowledge that your intervention was productive. But let me say this while our colleague while he leaves, let me say this. When the court made reference to Article 33, and said that there is not a clear mechanism by which we can compel compliance or to compel these people to come to the minority to attend session, that was not the crux of the court's opinion. In law, what the court did there was what we consider operator data. It's an operator data, right? Is the court expressing its own view about what should have been done that was not done. But it's not the opinion it said. That's the operator data, right? The court just enjoy it said. The court has the latitude to say something in passing. It's saying something in passing. It's not the substantive, all right? So, and going forward, this is what I would even suggest to Speaker Kofa. If this conflict is over, I don't know how it will end, that, he will leave a legacy, at the legislature. He can proffer a bill in the British Parliament, where I spent 5 years in London. I got my master's degree from one of the best law schools in England, Birkbeck. And what is done in the British Parliament as a way of resolving some of these things to compel compliance, they call it the Recall Act. The Recall Act of 2015, right? The British Parliament passed that if a law, and we can modify it in our jurisdiction, in our legislature, we can modify it. It says that if a parliamentarian, a lawmaker, if for any reason a lawmaker were to be suspended, to be absent from the parliament for 10 sittings, they will declare a constituency. They will declare that place vacant, and there will be by-election. So we can pick up from that, because that would be a mechanism by which we can compel these people, if they're acting unilaterally, if they're acting illegally, to compel them to attend session. So say, look, we go back and they can proffer a bill and say, look, if you are a lawmaker and you decide to stay away from the legislature for maybe the British people say 10 sittings, we can say maybe for 15 sittings, we will declare vacant your seat, and there will be by-election in your constituency. We can do that. Then we'll compel people now to come, but as it is, there is no way we can compel anybody. You can't hand drag them. You know what I mean? And if you don't want your seat to be vacant for by-election, you will come. You will come to session. I think some of the lawmakers who are listening to me tonight, who are on the Kofa side, or Kofa himself, if the matter is resolved, he can proffer that bill. He can close that gap. Because it is that gap that's being exploited every now and then for the majority to be in the wrong. Article 33 of the Constitution anticipated that indeed the majority will be wrong. And because it anticipated that's why it said from time to time, the minority must compel these people to come to session. All right? Because it anticipated that. Because it's a political environment where people can take the law in their own hands. It's something that we all should know about, right? People can do the right thing, but the wrong way. So even if you have the so-called foreigner and you got the foreigner by means not provided for in the law, you're still wrong. Your action will still be ultra viral. There is a way to remove the speaker. They know it. It is a practice. They follow it before. The previous people did it. So go back to the precedent as established and follow it. Go to plenary session, file a motion. You know, I think at this stage, Speaker Kofa and his people, and all Liberians, all of our Liberian people, we should use every tool in the democratic toolbox to correct this anomaly. That people will just get angry and jump from in one chamber and go in one other chamber and start to do things their own way, in ways that are not provided for in the law. We should stop it. We got to use every tool. Kofa will need to use every tool in the democratic toolbox. And I agree with one of the panelists here who said, he's encouraging Kofa not to buckle. I too, like many other Liberians, we are encouraging Kofa not to buckle, not to thaw under pressure, because when you allow impunity to prevail, it will have no stopping place. Today, because Bwaka enjoys some degree of impunity when he removed those tenure holders from offices against the express opinion of the same Supreme Court. We didn't do much. That's why he doubled down. Every time power is afforded impunity, power double down into wrongness. And this is what we see. Aside with the view expressed by the Amica Curies. The Amica Curies is a big legal word always using the friend of the court. Taylor is a friend of the court. He has filed a friend of the court brief. And he's saying that the continued action of these people, is violated of Article 76, A, by C of the Liberian Constitution. That when you do anything that does not support the Constitution, you are subverting the country democracy. By extension, it's treasonable. It's treasonous. The Constitutional Court says you are sitting illegally. You still continue to sit illegally. In fact, you go there and double down and start doing more business. Your action is treasonous. It's undermining our Constitution. You undermining the tenets of democracy. In a civilized democracy, when the Constitutional Court speaks, we can express disagreement, but we acknowledge it and do accordingly. You can't say, even though the courts are ultra viral, I will still do business here. And the executive will deploy police to start deliberately, physically flocking other lawmakers that disagree.
Councilor, let me ask you this question before we move forward. What is going on?
Councilor, look, as a guy who fought the system, I would encourage Liberians to do like I've always done and I will continue to do. We have to write. You just can't, look, there are a lot of ways you can fight. And fighting, look, some people use physical hands, some people use the pen and paper. The white men like to see paperwork. We have to write all of the institutions that support the Liberian government. You have to, the people can see you killing one another, and not just by what you say, because sometimes they don't understand our tradition, they don't understand things. You got to put these things in black and white and write. This morning I wrote about 9 letters. If you think if those people just see 9 letters to different 9 organizations that support the Liberian budget, it's just one Liberian. Can you imagine if even 50 Liberians were to write 50 of the people that support the Liberian budget? Because there are 2 things the letter should be on: corruption and the illegal removal. Those 2 things are tantamount to raise eyebrows to any government, because you are telling them, hey, your money you're sending, this is how these people are spending your money. Some of us, we've been writing for you. We just can't stop. We just can't keep talking. These people have to have things on their decks. And if you can't write, people will need your name. You can just make your name available All you need to do is to sign, because the more letters are on these people's decks, they will be concerned. We got to floor the U.S. Embassy, the European Union, the AD Bank, the World Bank.
You know.
Well, Councilor, let me ask a question here.
Yeah.
What business did the Senate have to listen to the law to the Justice Minister to interpret
corruption? That's all. Corruption.
You know, I mean, I think it's a good question, but obviously there's still, there are dissenting voices, from even the Senate. But you can understand why the leadership of the Senate, the Senate pro tempore, the Senate pro tempore has to abandon his own party to support Mr. Bouaka. And so considering that she abandoned her party to support Mr. Bouaka, she happens to be one of Mr. Bouaka's poodles, right? And so she has to do Mr. Bouaka's bidding. All that she really needed was just a plausible alibi. She just needed a plausible alibi for doing this. And here is the alibi that's in the public now. Oh, the Minister of Justice says so I had to do it. She's finding a way to go and basically do the bidding for Mr. Bouaka, which I think is also wrong, because she needed, at least in a way, to make that body to be independent, of the executive. Because when you come across taking direct instruction from the executive, mind you, the Minister of Justice operates under the directive of the executive. I know when I used to be in Liberia and associating myself with the legislature, they used to have a lawyer there. I don't know what the lawyer is saying to them. The National Legislature has a law office. They should have a law office. They should have a lawyer who's supposed to advise them. I don't know. But if they are now going to take directive or instruction from the Minister of Justice, who will find it, because if you have a president that is really dangerous, like Mr. Bouaka is proving himself to be, he will constrain and compel lawyers, say, look for the law, find something to say. That's why they put on Mr. Councilor Tuena. Because his earlier position in private was that he was not going to do this. I'm told, when I said Dango, the prospect, when they started telling him, say, my man, when you do the right thing, we'll put you on the Supreme Court bench, then he had to find a law. He had to find something to say. And every lawyer would do that. And especially lawyers who want to be corrupt, they will find anything to just put in the public. That's what Councilor Oswald has done. And I think he has done, irreparable damage to his own reputation. And I carry him in the bracket with KZB Scar. KZB Scar, these are the guys who are advising Doe to proceed wrongly in the country. He ended up on the dump site. He didn't die because he advised the former president in a wrongful way. I also brought you to Justice Balazer. Balazer, even though from Nimba, he was a Chief Justice. He enabled Doe to get on some of the extrajudicial killing that happened in the country. Balazer, don't take it from me. Go back and read our history. I'm happy today, and I'm happy because the last time I came here and told you guys that today Liberia have a female justice, and that female justice have not shown herself to be compromised. It said to you that in our country, in our history has a way of repeating itself. Angie brought around a representative Liberia, female, male Liberia to tower at the UN. When doing our crisis, our war years, it took our women to stand up for right. Lema Bowie and other women to make sure that Liberia had found an amicable resolution to our conflict. In Ghana, they naked themselves and constrained men. When the country was sinking internationally, when the image was drowning, and everything they saw about Liberia was people were killing each other. It took Ellen Johnson selling another female to restore Liberia's diplomatic image, to restore Liberia's credibility on the international stage. Today, where Bouaka want to carry the country to hell, at least a female justice, is encouraging her friends to do the right thing. Maybe they must have advised her to keep it. And I said the thing was deeply political. Stay in the middle ground and give the opinion as they gave it. But let applaud her courage. Let applaud her courage. Thank God she's not Balazer. Thank God. Hey, yo, but I said, but now you have conflict in the country. Thank God for you. I want to pray for tonight. And I want to encourage you to continue to tell these people that it is not right. The majority can be wrong. That's what they call the tyranny of the majority. Right? The majority can be wrong. The tyranny of the majority. Because you think you're in majority, you will just go outside of the law. You think that's what you're going to be doing? And you lawmaker, you're not law abiding? Is it not disgraceful? The court has expressed itself. Now, we got to get the friend of the court to get involved. The Amica Curie, Kehleboe Gongloe to say, look, the people action continually is violating of Article 76. Article 76 says, anytime you do these things and you undermine the country's constitution, your action is treasonable. The court has spoken. You still undermining the court's opinion. It's treasonable. That's Gongloe. Now you are coming to have a bit of information informing the court that his opinion has not been respected by the 43 guys who are trying to be lawless. So let's see where we proceed from there. While we're doing this, we need to encourage Kofa and his people to hold together. They should not buckle.
Very crucial.
No matter what happens. It is a fight for democracy now. It's not about Kofa. I have been here before and offer critique of Kofa. But, the way Kofa conducted himself, I think you should have been throwing the book at President Bouaka. Since they trained you to Kofa, throw the book at Bouaka. And when you talk to Kofa, he will tell you, look, I was trying to, do surface. I was trying to play along, but you know what I mean? This is horrible. And I don't know whether it was on this show, but on another show, I reminded our country that what we see happening here, it bears startling resemblance to what is narrated or what is narrated in Chinua Achebe Things Fall Apart. If you read Chinua Achebe Things Fall Apart, page 57 down to page 59, where Okongo had to go to the elder, the man of wisdom in the town, to ask for wisdom, how to deal with the issue of Ikimifina. Ikimifina was the guy who's supposed to be sacrificed to the evil forest. That's that guy. And the man of wisdom, Izidu. Okay? Izidu advised Okongo and said, Okongo, that boy calls you father. Do not bear a hand in his death. Okongo did not listen to the advice of the elder. And when Ikimifina was taken, even though, if you read the Things Fall Apart, they said when they were going towards the evil forest, Ikimifina was afraid. He was uneasy. But when he saw the presence of Okongo, who he had called father, he had some courage. When they met him, he was running to Okongo. He said, Father, they want to kill me. Okongo took out a knife and killed Ikimifina. Since Okongo killed Ikimifina, everything about him came down. The message here tonight is, President Bouaka, Kofa has been deferential to you. Kofa have accorded you all of the respect. Today, Mr. Bouaka, as head of the executive, you have been accused of paying money. Paying bra, something that is not supported by our law, the penal law section 12, say you can't pay bra money to induce people to do bad things. Mr. Bouaka, you have been accused, even though Kofa has been deferential to the extent that the friends who have known him for a long time try to criticize him. You are today undermining not just Kofa, Mr. Bouaka. You are undermining our democracy. This thing Mr. Bouaka is doing is going to be the beginning of his fall. Because he's not listening to the words of wisdom. If Kofa says, let's work alone, let's strengthen Liberia democracy, you will still pay money to remove him to the extent that you're doing it in a manner that is so clumsy that the court is saying, no, this is too inelegant. This is terrible. The court is saying, it's terrible, it's inelegant. If you want to do it the right way. And still, they are not paying attention. They are not paying attention. Go back to how our war years started. When you do injustice to one person, you think you're doing it to one person, you're doing it to all the people associated with that person. Today, you pay money to move Kofa. Tomorrow, if somebody bad's going to remove you. Mr. Bouaka, will you have the moral authority to say it's wrong to remove people wrongly or wrongfully? Will you do that? You pay money to remove the speaker. It is not clear, obviously clear, crystal clear. That money is being used to induce lawmakers to remove the speaker. Somebody has gone with money to remove you illegally, Mr. Bwaka. What would be your moral argument? That in our right to remove people forcefully, I must stay here for 6 years? Stay here for 6 years to be doing what? To plunge the country into West Nile? Liberian people, let's use all of the tools in the democratic toolbox to resist the lawlessness that is now taking place in the country. It is complete, total, epic lawlessness to see the president, the executive, instruct police to go to the Capitol building and deny access to lawmakers who have voted to go over there to make business on our behalf. You can't be friendly to one set of lawmakers and be unfriendly to the other batch because they don't support the president. It's just wrong. This thing cannot be justified on any ground. It's just wrong, plainly wrong. This is not what our democracy is supposed to look like. So, Liberian citizens, let's exercise our Article 17 right. Article 17 of the Liberian Constitution gave us the right to assemble peacefully and petition our government to do right. Let's assemble peacefully, whether they got police. Look, let me tell you this, but you ask me a question, let me say this. The issue about police and policing, brother, it is by what? Consent. The police, the citizen, they decided to use the tools available to them to tell Mr. Bwaka, no, the police can't do nothing. You can only police people when they give their willing consent.
My next question was
all right, guys, but let's do that. We got 14 minutes to go. So let's 14 minutes.
Let me say
14 minutes.
Good. You know, look, I am a Christian. Let me put it out there. Whatever we'll say, I don't care. And I know there are situations in the Bible where God used not so good characters, but they were able to accomplish good things. And I'm speaking to those who always want to use this period, this time of struggle, to either look at the character of Planty Kofa as a means of muddy the water. I mean, when I sometimes think as a Christian, and I say to myself, why did God use Joseph? Why did he have to put Joseph through all these kind of things just to suffer at the end of the day to succeed? Look, guys, Planty Kofa being the worst guy ever. I don't like the guy. But at some point in time, everything has a beginning. I know it's hard when you're not used to the right thing happening. It's hard for you to envision that this time the right thing will happen. It is difficult. But I will tell you this, if you are standing for the right thing, no matter what happens, if you believe in the cause that you're standing for, stand for it. And tomorrow, if what for you shall see your face, seeking for faith, people will say, I believe in that. If I have just listened to the crowd of my friends and said, Ben, this is just, don't mind these people. Let's leave them. Let's go and study. Just forget about these people. Leave them and let's do our thing. But I believe I was fighting for a cause. And the same cause Mr. Kofa is standing for today. Mr. Kofa, please, in the name of God, do not give the struggle out. I see your struggle through my personal life. And the thing that I stood for today, others are benefiting from it. I am not a perfect character. So you are. Mr. Kofa, but through me and through you, maybe this will be that point at which Liberians begin to start to realize that change is coming. And I know there is a lot of light at the end of this tunnel, and it must start now. Rest my case.
Your statement just reminded me about George Oswell, right? I say, you know, if you can keep saying your truth, even if you are the only person saying truth, you will not go mad. You know, you reference Councillor Kofa. Look, brother, even the legislature, the man who is desperate to replace Speaker Kofa, he's not an angel. He himself has been involved with all sort of controversy. Some of it borders on corruption. And so he's not an angel. Besides that, the man is chronically limited. Just a simple sentence, besides not knowing which hand to pull up, which I think was something that somebody who be a lawmaker for at least 1 month should know. I think he wrote a simple sentence today on Facebook, and people telling him up and down that it's grammatically improper. So this is a man who has chronic limitation, yet he still want to lead that branch of government. What education, what leadership is he going to provide? Brother, Kofa is a seasoned lawyer. That when there's no if and end about it. As human beings, we all bear our mistakes, we all have our own frailties. But he has been able to do his best to conduct himself as a team player. Kofa has not conducted himself like what Snow did. That's why I'm still finding it difficult. Why would Mr. Bwaka be so vengeful? Is it because he's from Bwedu? You know, Bwaka comes from a place in Sevelun called Bwedu. Buedu. The people, the Kisi, most of the Kisi from that part of Freetown, Sevelun, most of the people, the Kisi from that part of Sevelun called Bwedu, they are vengeful. They are unforgiving. Maybe that's the gene in Bwaka, because we told that he was born in Bwedu, which is a bordering town with Sevelun. In fact, most of Bwedu comprised of what land that was captured by a Sevelunian warrior from Liberian warrior. That had seized that portion that they call Kalahun, right? Kalahun district. It basically came about as a result of Chief Kalando. It was a very powerful warrior from Sevelun, you know, defeated most of our chiefs along the border and took that land, and then it became Kalahun. But Bwedu is in Sevelun, and that's where Mr. Bwaka comes from. And we had to discuss his place of origin because it says something about him, about how he sees things. He's unforgiving. He's unforgiving. He's not forgiving Amara. He's not being able to forgive some of the brothers there. Today they are outside, even though Amara Kone campaigned in the run out. Even though Amara Kone was instrumental in helping to establish the war room that Bwaka enjoyed today and cannot victory for him, because Amara told him that the government should be inclusive of all Liberians, irrespective of what somebody calls you yesterday. If the person got qualifying credential to help our country, bring them. You don't want to hear voices like that. So today, Amara Kone is outside the room. He's outside. Today, Bwaka will not make sure that Justice Janet Klein can get justice. Why? Because Janet belongs to a Madinko community for which the Lofa Defense Force was established. You know what the Lofa Defense Force was established? Lofa Defense Force was established, and Bwaka was a ranking member of the local defense force. And the Lofa Defense Force was established to reduce Madinko influence in the country. Today, Bwaka has still not forgotten those things. And he will not give justice to Janet's client, even though Janet endorsed him publicly. Brother, the man is vengeful. That's why I say vengeance is for God. If you human being try to do like what Bwaka is doing, you put the country on fire. You put the country on fire. You can't do this. We need to tell him, and we need to encourage Justice Yo to keep straightening her backbone out. Even though Chia Chipo was ejected from that place, Chia Chipo legacy looms. Let's continue to encourage that woman. She's doing well for our democracy. Our democracy will not be strengthened if we have weak men or weak women. I know Councillor Oswald is desperate to go on the bench, but what kind of justice will he be if he cannot properly advise the executive? Why Oswald going to go on the bench? I would even prefer a Nimadi Wono or a Tier 1 Gongo to go on the bench who can look the president in the face and say, you wrong or I resign. Not Oswald who comes from the corporate war and desperate to go on the court bench. What a man he is.
In all of this thing that we are talking about, there is a sleeping giant. What is a sleeping giant? Or is a sleeping corrupt political party who happens to be the CDC, who is having their speaker hijacked. We cannot talk about this speaker removal without discussing the CDC. Look, we know what the CDC did in the past when they wanted money. We know what they did when they wanted to be corrupt. We know how the likes of Jefferson Koji's and all of these guys were in the street for the wrong thing. Now, somewhere where these guys should have stand up to redeem some of the dark images, and all we see is a complete silence of the CDC.
No, it is my understanding. Let's correct that. It's my understanding that the issue, President Weah has been. President Weah is the. Let me just say this. President Weah is the.
Mr. Johnson, hold up. Mr. Johnson, these people have issued press statement for over 2 months. We know when they wanted to be corrupt, they did not issue press statements. They were all doing corrupt things. When there was time for them to do the illegal things, they got in the street. They beat people to do the wrong thing. When it's time to do the right thing, these guys.
What I was. My dear colleague, let me, if you allow me, let me push back a little bit. I want us, for those of us who are sympathetic to the COFA cause.
I am.
I want us to continue to use the language Speaker COFA is using. I think I told this from my former boss, Louis Garcia Brown. He said, when you mad and they kick you in your stomach, so now you don't vomit blood, you vomit water. COFA, he's aware that the court ruled in his favor. He posted a message that was more, reconciliatory, that was more diplomatic, that was subtle and encouraging his friends to join him so they can do the work of the Liberian people. Those who believe in this cause, I think we should continue to encourage our other friends who have not seen a fate to be zealous about the cause. And so with this, I can acknowledge that at least the head of the CDC, who happens to be Mr. George Myean, he has suspended some of the lawmakers. We can't be oblivious of this fact. He's taking some steps. I'm told he has met with some of them. And the chemistry is about to change. All we can do at this stage is to encourage the CDC to see this fight as their fight. The fight is now above and beyond COFA. It is a fight about Liberia democracy. I came here on the show, and to the surprise of even COFA himself, as a younger brother to him, I offer a critique of COFA here. But where it has reached, I think if I were to sit back idly, and COFA is removed in the manner in which these people want to do, my conscience will tell me that I was complicit. I want to tell sedition. No matter what COFA did in the past, no matter your reservation about how COFA was running his office as speaker, if we sit idly and COFA is unlawfully removed, we will be complicit in a way. Let us not be complicit. Let us stand up with Speaker COFA. Let's stand up for Liberia democracy. It is our constitution that is being urinated upon, that's being desecrated by the United Party people who don't want to respect the law. Every time they don't want the law to restrain them. And Margaret Thatcher, that great female prime minister of England, he said the first duty of every responsible government is to uphold the law. So if you have a government that doesn't uphold the law, that government is a reckless, lawless, gangsterist government. Let's tell the sedition. Let us see this as our fight. That what these people are engaging is sheer gangsterism. It's the the survival of the fittest. You know what I mean? Yes. And we can't do that. The law is there to counterbalance all of our action. That's what it should be. So let us encourage that.
Yes. Look,
let us encourage that. Sorry, somebody not going to do interfering, but I want to thank you for having me tonight. I had to rush. I just zoomed in on the show. But I thank you for tonight. I want to encourage my CDC friends. Let us join the fight for Liberia democracy. Let us not be passive observer. Let's stand on the side of Kofa. Let's stand on the side of the law and make sure we do right for our country. Thank you very much.
You couldn't have said it any more than that, no, man. Isaac Jackson will always be Isaac Jackson. Guys, we got 6 minutes.
So quiet listening to
We got 6 minutes. Let's divide it 2 minutes each, and then we call it a day. Isaac Jackson, you are the man. You will always be Isaac Jackson.
You always be the man.
Strong engagement tonight. Strong engagement, Isaac Jackson. Guys, let's divide 2 minutes each. We got 6 minutes.
Ben.
Let's
Ben
take
and
2
my people
minutes.
when you speak against people. That is people tradition. But you know, Ben and Dr. Peabody, and to our audience, many Liberians will claim that they are law-abiding. You hear some of them making some of the funniest argument. I would term it to be, let the former speaker resign. How can somebody who is former in your mind resign? I mean, what sense? Make that make sense to me. Let the former speaker resign. It doesn't make no sense. The word former, he no longer. But then you're asking him to resign. So you are confused in your thoughts to ask a man who is a speaker to be a former speaker and then in the same token say resign. I want to speak to my fellow partisan from the ANC. I also want to speak to my 2 senators from Grand Gillette County. I did not see you, signing that resolution or concurring with what the Senate Pro Tem, Senator Yomli Kangalorian did today. However, I want to give you the benefit of the doubt. Now, please, if you disagree with that decision, make it known, make it public. Just as the chairman of the Judicial Committee of the Senate did today. He had a press conference and he stated his disagreement. Don't sit silently and hope that, we should understand. You are representing not just the people of Grand Gillette, but the people of Liberia as well. And so I want to speak to both of you in this manner. I want to encourage my fellow partisans and all those in the opposition to fight for democracy. Forget about partisanship. Forget about party affiliation. Our democracy is under attack. Let us come together and fight. It was then Mr. Cummings. Today is Speaker Kofa. If we don't stand up like Ben said, for me, I am a beneficiary of something that people make mockery of in Abidjan 2003 and 2004. When we stood up and said we can no longer be in the Ivory Coast as refugees where there's war and United Nations was doing nothing about it. And people were like, but man, you go say that, man, we'll listen to you. But that advocacy and that protest and that march landed up to 5,000 Liberian refugees in the United States without paying a dime to come here. But we were made mockery of. Man, I know how people behave. They laugh at us. They call names that we were so hungry, we're looking for food to eat. We ain't get nothing. Nobody will listen to us. But we were consistent and we were focused. All of the recommendations the people gave us, we said no, we wanted to leave and come to the US. That was the only option we agreed to. Some of our guys almost agreed to the other option. And finally, God was on our side and we came.
All right.
Establishment of everything.
You got more than 3 minutes.
All right. So, folks, Councillor Kofa, Speaker Kofa, stand your ground. We support you from the distance. We will support you in our article through our back channel. Thank you very much for having me.
This is how.
Thank you. It's always good to have you. Come on, Ben.
This is how I will close in my 2 minutes. Mr. Kofa, your story resembles my story. As a young boy from Grand Crew, I fought a system. I didn't win. I did not win the physical fight. The documents that I hold today from the federal government I needed to go another step to fight. I didn't have the courage. I was alone. I fought. All my friends left me alone. I won the French court case. I lost the. But at the end of the day, the message that I left with the federal government, that is the educational federal government, was that there was a young guy from Africa who understood his rights, and he stood up for them, and they recognized me, and they said, "You, very strong and very brave." Today, even though it took long to finish nursing school, only because of these things I suffered. Only because of these things. But today, I'm here to tell the story, and people know it, and people are benefiting for the struggle that I went through, and today people are benefiting from that fight. I want to thank you, all of you, for listening, and we will see you tomorrow. Mr. Kofa, we got your back.
Right, guys. We thank you so much, all of you guys. See you. Look, man, let me just close here. Guys, don't forget, these kids are reading right in the studio now. They're going home. It's almost 1 a.m. We want to be a gift to them. So Thursday, we're going to come here and take whatever you have, $10, $20, $15, just for them. They've been waiting almost 1 a.m. in Liberia, and they've been waiting for us just to keep this show going. Also, we apologize. We have not been taking some phone calls. We're trying to get a new number for closing argument where you call directly in the U.S. and be able to talk. Hopefully, we'll get it in about a week or something like that. But thank all of you guys for making this show. Gay and Ben, man, it was always a delight. I wish we could go on all night. But let me say this. Speaker Kofa remains a legitimate speaker, and speaker, do not resign until the last resource you have is gone. Stick to the point. Even to take a police to take a car, you've been driving expensive car before you even got that government car. You've been living luxury life, good life. You work hard. Let them do it. But what I can say, I say over and over, Joe Bogart is an old man. He got no energy to lead that country. He's not aware of most of the decisions being made. It's just making do things and he say it. But that man can't even stand at the top for 10 minutes. He got no energy. But that's the thing, man. Unfortunately, but guys, look, thank you. I wish we could keep going, but guys, it's been a great show again. I appreciate all of you guys. Guys in studio, thank you so much. We'll see you tomorrow, man.
Guys, we got you guys. We got you. We got you.
Just hang in there. We got you guys, man. Just hang in there. We got you. All right. So, guys, good night. And we'll see you tomorrow. See you tomorrow. Also.